You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 593, Red Man 4. Chapter 593, Chapter 158 Red Man 4. Setting a goal for the students was a good thing. Zhou Mingren thought for a while and said, "Tell them, whoever can defeat Wuxia once will be rewarded with 100 merit points. If they defeat Suyu once, I will personally write an article of will as a reward." When these words were said, even the elders were a little surprised. This was really a huge investment. Zhou Mingren, who was at the peak of the mountain and sea realm, had personally written the text of will. Furthermore, he had even written it while it was still in the air. It was too rare. All right. The few of them replied once more. This fellow, Suyu, was probably in big trouble this time. Just as they were about to leave, Zhou Mingren suddenly said, "It's the same if it's not just the divine literature department." The few of them suddenly turned their heads to look at him. Zhou Mingren said faintly, "If my disciples know that they can't do it, then I'll find someone else. When that time comes, I'll see who will lose face." The few of them were completely speechless. With this, Suyu would be in big trouble. However, if the students from the Divine Literature Department really couldn't get their rewards and were taken away by someone else, then it would be awkward and they would be completely ashamed to face anyone. Zhou Mingren didn't say anything anymore. The few of them also didn't ask about the divine literature. They didn't want to participate in this matter. Let Zhou Mingren do it himself. That was his student, not their student. On the top floor of the Heart Cultivation Pavilion, Wan Tiansheng sat cross-legged on the ground and looked out of the window. He suddenly muttered, "Are they going to fight? That's fine too. If the students wanted to fight, the strong also wanted to fight. Since they were not willing to go out and fight, it was better to fight among themselves than not to move at all. Men." A moment later, an old man entered the door and looked at Wan Tiansheng. He said, "Principal, go tell Wu Yuehua that Zhou Mingren is going to dig up Zhang Ruoling's grave." "Got it. Also, tell Lu Wenyan." Wan Tiansheng said calmly, "Even if Wu Yuehua knows, she might not tell him." "Understood. Go." The old man nodded and turned to leave. Wan Tiansheng stood up and looked downstairs. He muttered, "Let's fight. If we don't fight, you won't show up. If you don't show up, who knows, who set up that trap back then?" The multi-divine prose sect had to show their face. 50 years ago, in order to prevent the fifth generation from attaining the Tao, so many people died. However, they were all experts from the multi-divine prose sect, and almost all of them died. What a big deal. So many invincible realm experts were alive, but they were all stopped. Even the great Xia Emperor was ambushed, and it was too late when he arrived. It was too big. So extravagant that even the whereabouts of the unrivaled human race had been discovered. "Is that you?" Muttering to himself, the 10,000 heavenly saints looked up at the sky. In that scene, whose hand was behind him? The Seeker realm, what was it doing? Were there really no clues all these years? Or was it that the Seeker realm had been infiltrated? A long sigh was only one of a million possibilities. It might not be true, but perhaps. I was just overthinking things. Lu Wenyan. Xia Yinqi. He muttered to himself, shook his head, sat down, and continued to cultivate cross-legged. Those who should come out, come out. If you continue to hide, there won't even be a sound from the many divine texts, so who would care about you? At the same time, the news spread. Whoever defeated Suyu would be awarded a copy of the will of the peak of the mountain and sea realm. The moment the news spread, the entire academy was in an uproar. The will of the peak of the mountain and sea realm was written by an expert. No matter what, it would at least cost 2,000 to 3,000 merit points, right? The key was that you might not be able to buy merit points. Furthermore, there were no restrictions this time. What cultivation technique? What kind of cultivation technique? Perhaps, it would be fine to exchange it for a copy of the will of the 10,000 literature classic. Then they would be rich. At this moment, even the students who were about to soar into the sky were shocked. It was too difficult to learn the Wen Jing on one's own. Su Yu. As long as he defeated Su Yu, he would be able to obtain this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It was too precious. Ranked 71st. At this moment, the students who were ranked 80th to 72nd were a little excited. Not only that. Some of the students above the rankings were even considering whether to find a few lower-ranked students to collaborate with. For example, to beat their rankings. As such, challenging Su Yu was logical. Overnight, Su Yu became completely popular. He became a popular figure in the academy. His fame was not inferior to the number 1 ranked Zhan Hai. This news was spreading rapidly. In an instant, even some people outside the academy had heard about it. Great Xia Civilization Academy's Su Yu. This batch of new students, the most monstrous student, suppressed the descendants of Wan, Xia, Hu, and Zhao Duo. Defeating Su Yu had become the dream of many people at this moment. To defeat him, he needed a book of will. Even if he couldn't use it, he could sell it for thousands of merit points. To the students, thousands of merit points might be something that would last a lifetime. And at this moment, Su Yu was still immersed in the wonders of the research field, completely forgetting that there were still many troubles waiting for him in the outside world. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 594 has its own list 1. Chapter 594, Chapter 159 has its own list 1. On the night of the 3rd, Su Yu became completely popular. A group of people wanted to challenge Su Yu immediately, but after the 3rd, no one saw Su Yu anymore. Some said that he was in closed-door cultivation, some said that he was injured before, and some said that Su Yu did not dare to accept the challenge, so he hid. According to the Academy's rules, if someone challenged Su Yu before the end of the month, and Su Yu didn't accept the challenge, then after the 25th, the top 100 list would be calculated, and Su Yu would automatically be removed from the list. This was also to prevent some students from avoiding the challenge, deliberately finding reasons to drag it out and monopolize the list. Su Yu really didn't know about this. At this moment, he was entering a magical field. Researching innate blood essence. Creating innate blood essence. 3rd underground floor. Main laboratory. Su Yu exclaimed, "Teacher, the imprint within this blood essence can actually be peeled out. This is too mystical. Is this the imprint of an innate skill?" The blood essence contained the image of the corresponding creature. It was very blurry. Of course, the stronger one was, the more real it was. Just like the first time Su Yu bought the iron-winged bird's blood essence, he saw a golden bird as if it was trapped in the blood essence. At that moment, they were studying the soul-devouring worm's blood essence. In the blood essence, a small black insect was faintly discernible. Bai Feng was performing subtle operations to separate the blood essence. He replied, "That's right. This is the talent mark." What was blood essence? It was something left behind after a creature died, or when it was alive, it was left behind after consuming a large amount of blood and yuan qi. Actually, blood essence can also be divided into the blood essence of a dead creature and the blood essence of a living creature. You have to learn how to distinguish this. Teacher, is there a difference? Yes. Bai Feng was still very knowledgeable about his own professional field. He explained, most people don't care about the difference between the two. As researchers, we must distinguish between them. The essence blood of dead creatures is the essence blood condensed by dead creatures. It contains some willpower, and even resentment. Therefore, many things may be left behind, such as obsession, and some subtle images when they were alive. This is mainly common in the bodies of fiend god experts. As for the essence blood of a living creature, for example, the essence blood extracted by the few monsters we imprisoned doesn't contain these things. As he said this, the master and disciple looked at each other. Bai Feng looked at him, and Suyu looked at Bai Feng. How many days have you not fed it? Suyu calculated for a moment and sighed in relief. Not many days. It's only the 4th today. It hasn't even been 5 days. That's still all right. Bai Feng also heaved a sigh of relief. It had only been a few days, so it was nothing. At this moment, Bai Feng had already separated the blood essence. Willpower appeared and wrapped around the tiny bug's shadow. He said softly, "This is the imprint, but it might not be just the innate skill imprint. There might be other imprints, so we have to peel them off." At this point, Bai Feng said proudly, "In the past, many people have reached this step. They also know that there might be something in this imprint, but they have never been able to peel off the part that belongs to the innate skill imprint. It was your teacher, me, who invented the rapid peeling method." Suyu widened his eyes and flattered, "Teacher is amazing." "That's right." Bai Feng was very satisfied. "You brat, now do you know how awesome your teacher is?" In order to prevent this brat from speaking further, he quickly said, "The rapid stripping method is actually not difficult. But it requires a lot of care. Not only can you peel off some innate skill imprints, you might even be able to peel off some living creature's memories." Bai Feng said seriously, "This is very important. I dare say that in today's civilized master world, there are very few people like me who can clearly peel off different imprints." Suyu felt that he was bragging. Was it very difficult? Couldn't he even be invincible? There weren't many. Don't believe me? Watch carefully and listen carefully. Bai Feng said unhappily, "This is your teacher's unique move. Other than your grandmaster stealing it from me, I haven't taught anyone else." Steal it. This word was a little interesting. Suyu didn't care whether he believed it or not. At this moment, his eyes were wide open as he watched Bai Feng operate. Bai Feng didn't care about him. His willpower moved the bug's shadow onto the experiment table. A small sword appeared in his hand. It was also his divine literature battle technique. Bai Feng said seriously, "This thing is similar to divine literature. In the past, I didn't really understand the principles behind it. Now, it seems like it might be the projection of the innate divine literature or the projection after the Sea of Will collapsed. We have to use the divine runes to separate it. Some experts are so troublesome at this stage. Back then, your grandmaster used the willpower of the mountain and sea realm to separate it, but he failed. It's actually quite simple. The divine runes will separate it." As Bai Feng spoke, the divine runes dragon-slaying sword carefully cut the projection a few times. What was originally a bug suddenly turned into several bugs. This one needs to master the trick. A phantom represents a remnant characteristic. He casually pointed at a bug phantom and said, "This pitch-black phantom is resentment." It's not accurate to say that this thing is resentment, but it's an impurity. If you devour essence blood, this thing will devour it, resulting in a mixture of acupoints and yuan qi. This has something to do with it. With that said, he slashed the phantom into pieces, emitting a plume of black smoke. The second one is a memory fragment. He pointed at another phantom and said, "When you smash this, you can see some of the deepest memories of the soul-devouring bugs. Of course, they are too weak, so there won't be too many left." You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 595, There were thousands of them. Chapter 595, in Chapter 159, there were thousands of them. In the next moment, he shattered this afterimage. At this moment, an image appeared. In the pitch-black space, countless bugs were soul-devouring bugs. At this moment, these bugs crawled down from a huge bug. The image flashed and disappeared in an instant. Bai Feng frowned and said, "This is the soul-devouring bug queen bug. It's very strong. If we meet it in the heavens battlefield, run. Just one word, run as far as you can. This thing is specifically targeted at civilized masters. A queen bug is at least at the Lingyun realm. Even a Shanhai realm's civilized master would be in trouble if they meet it." "Got it." Suyu nodded. Then, he thought for a moment and said, "Teacher, this can see some memories. What a terrifying feeling. Since that's the case, then we can kill some gods and demons. Won't we be able to obtain many secrets?" "That's right." Bai Feng nodded, but he quickly said, "Like I said, there aren't many people who can extract the memories, so it's actually not very useful. It's very simple." Suyu felt that it was very simple. Wasn't it easy to extract the memories? "Look at you, you just casually cut it open with a few cuts." Bai Feng rolled his eyes, he snappily said, "Nonsense. I'm getting better with practice. I'm rich in experience, and my talent surpasses others. How can you tell which part of a shadow is a memory fragment, which part is resentment, and which part is a talent skill imprint?" Suyu thought for a moment and shook his head. It seemed to be true. It was not easy to tell. Bai Feng said, "You should learn this slowly. At your teacher's level, I can tell at a glance." "Teacher, what about the human race?" "What?" I said, if the human race dies, will there be blood essence? Will their memories be extracted? Bai Feng looked at him and frowned slightly, he thought for a moment and said, "There is a rule in the field of civilized masters. You must never use the human race as an experimental subject. This includes the members of the Myriad clan cult. You would rather kill them than use the human race as an experimental subject. Once you break this bottom line, the civilized master will become a demon. You have to understand that sometimes, once you let go of something, you can never take it back. Whether it's an enemy or not, whether it's an opponent or not, it's fine if you kill him, but you still have to cut him into 1,000 pieces and turn him into experimental materials. Suyu, remember, don't touch this taboo." Suyu nodded. Bai Feng thought for a moment and added, "Of course, if you really encounter some people from the 10,000 races sect on the heavenly battlefield and kill him, you'll encounter some trouble. You urgently need to know some information, so you can extract a drop of blood essence and examine the memory fragments." After saying that, Bai Feng warned, "That's all. That's all. You can crush his bones and scatter his ashes, but you are not allowed to conduct research on the enemy's corpse in private." "Got it." Bai Feng did not say that anymore and continued to experiment. Very soon, the other phantoms were destroyed, leaving only the last shadow of the bug. "This is the innate skill imprint." Bai Feng said seriously, "However, I have experimented with the soul-devouring bug a few times before and failed a few times. It may be that the other party's innate skill is not suitable to become the innate blood essence." "Why?" "It may be related to the type of its innate skill. Mutated yuan qi, corrosion, and burning willpower have corrosive effects, causing the outer layer of its blood essence to be destroyed." Bai Feng explained, "This is just a mark. To become a talent blood essence, one has to wrap a layer of special blood essence around it. The reason why I removed the soul-devouring worm's original blood essence was not only to extract this mark, but also because the original blood essence is not suitable to be a wrapping layer." Suyu nodded again like a good child. It was quite complicated. The outer layer of blood essence also had a special manufacturing process. Suyu was convinced now. F***ck, I really dare to make it up. The last time I sold the information, what kind of thing did I make up? People actually believed it. I'm convinced. These people are too stupid. After a series of complicated procedures, Bai Feng began to put on a coat for the phantom, which was the outer layer of blood essence. In the end, just as he put it on, it exploded. The moment it exploded, the phantom seemed to spit out a mouthful of saliva. Su Yu did not have the time to retreat when he suddenly felt a burning pain in his willpower. Ah! Bai Feng's willpower came over and said unhappily, "It's not a big deal, what are you shouting for? There's no blood essence energy added, it's just a broken mark. It won't cause much damage to Kai Yuan. It hurts." Su Yu felt wronged. It hurts, F***ck, it felt like he had just been killed in a dream, he had died for nothing, he felt wronged. Nonsense, of course it hurts. If it doesn't hurt the soul-devouring worm, how can it kill a civilized master? Bai Feng looked at him being defeated, he said with some schadenfreude, "Now you understand why those people paid so much attention when they knew that the soul-devouring worm's blood essence could extract innate skills. It was too painful. This thing had been grasped by the warrior. Don't you think it's much easier to beat a civilized master? Your willpower came over and tried to immobilize me. Hehe, my Yuan Qi mutated and burned you until you screamed repeatedly. Your willpower contracted and I instantly approached you and killed you with a slash." Su Yu hurriedly nodded. "Amazing. I can try it next time. This is amazing. Next time, Wan Mingze wants to immobilize me. Hehe, my Yuan Qi mutated and instantly corroded you until you called me daddy. Then, I'll go forward and kick you to death. It's indeed amazing. Teacher, you failed." "Yes, I failed." Bai Feng sighed and said, "This corrosion and burning is very troublesome. It's not good to cover the blood essence layer. The blood essence will easily explode." You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 596, Had Its Own Thousand Ways 3. Chapter 596, Chapter 159 Had Its Own Thousand Ways. Bai Feng said with a headache, "I gave up because of this. Think of a way yourself. I don't have the time to waste a lot of time on such a small matter." Su Yu had a helpless expression. Was this a small matter? It was a big trouble. However, Bai Feng was now focused on his innate divine text. Su Yu had no choice but to do it himself. Bai Feng did not care about him. After demonstrating it to him once, he said irresponsibly, "You can continue to try it yourself. Follow the process I just did. As for the blood essence layer, you can think of a way to improve it yourself." Bai Feng said. He threw a jade talisman to him and said, "This is the method I use to improve the blood essence and the structure of the blood essence layer. Take a look at it yourself and then think of a way to improve the blood essence layer that is suitable for the soul-devouring worm. This will be your entrance test." "Teacher, you haven't even come up with it yet. Isn't it too difficult to give me an entrance test? What's so difficult about it?" Bai Feng rolled his eyes and said, "What's so difficult about it? I'm too lazy to go and compare it. Otherwise, I would have already improved it successfully. If you spend more effort and become my student, you won't even be able to solve such a small problem." Su Yu was helpless. Bai Feng had already run away. He continued to return to his small house to study his innate divine text. Su Yu picked up the jade talisman and began to read through the information. In addition, there was one more thing that he was muttering in his heart. "Blood essence is mine. Poor teacher. He didn't even have the raw materials for his experiment. This soul-devouring bug's blood essence was provided by me. How poor. I'm so angry. I even have to pay for the materials myself. It's too miserable. Forget it, I won't argue with you. I'll go earn money myself." Su Yu was depressed. However, Bai Feng had told him everything he knew. He had said everything he needed to say. Su Yu had been reading all this while. Then, he had personally operated it a few times. He had wasted a few drops of soul-devouring worm's essence blood, but he had not managed to peel off the successful talent imprint even once. It didn't matter. Failure was F*King's success. Take it slow. He just didn't have any essence blood. He might have to go and buy some. He suddenly understood why Bai Feng had been using the fire dolphin essence blood. F*CK, it was cheap. Using this to practice would have the same effect. No wonder the laboratory had a lot of fire dolphin essence blood. So that was the case. At this moment, Suyu suddenly realized why there were so many people researching the fire dolphin. One word, poor. So poor that he did not have the money to buy other blood essences and conduct a large amount of research. For example, a drop of soul-devouring worm blood essence at the 1000 June realm would cost 3 merit points. Moreover, Xia Huyo had given the price, so it was much cheaper. With ease, Su Yu's remaining 8 drops of soul-devouring worm blood essence were gone. 24 merit points were gone. In the end, he could not even peel off a mark. Sure enough, research was expensive. As for the extracted blood essence, it could only be discarded and thrown into the filtration room. The mark inside was gone, and Su Yu tried to swallow a drop. In the end, he found that even the soul-devouring art could not be activated. Obviously, the atlas was opened with blood essence. It was not a simple energy supply. The main reason was that some of the remaining marks had been absorbed. The abandoned blood essence is not useless. At least the energy is pure. No wonder I always felt that the energy in the filter room was pure. It turns out that some of the things in it have been stripped. At this moment, Suyu had a better understanding of the Wentan Research Center. Without the blood essence, he had to find Xia Huyo to buy it. When he came out of the basement, it was already dawn on the 5th. Just as Su Yu was about to leave, he suddenly thought of something and hurriedly went to look in the mirror. He had destroyed his worldview. How many days had it been? His beard had appeared, his hair was in a mess, his white clothes had turned black, and dark circles had appeared under his eyes. F*CK. Su Yu was shocked. This was Bai Feng's second place. No wonder every time his teacher came out, he would act like this. What image could he have left? Su Yu hurriedly shook the acupoints in his body. The dust on his body fell off, and the dark circles under his eyes disappeared. Wen Bing appeared and turned into a small knife. He shaved his beard and tidied his hair. Su Yu hurriedly changed into a set of clothes and looked in the mirror. He was a scholarly scholar, and only then did Su Yu feel at ease. A person depended on his clothes. If he didn't dress up nicely, he would look more refined. Could it be that he didn't look like a good person just by learning from Jing Yunhui? He, Su Yu, was a great person. In the academy, those who were familiar with him all felt that Su Yu had a temperament. He was a good person, refined and easygoing. Half an hour later. In a small tea house in the nature garden. Xia Huyo saw Su Yu and hurriedly said, "You still dare to come out? I thought you were hiding and didn't dare to come out. Aren't you afraid of being seen by others and finding trouble with you?" "What?" Xia Huyo hurriedly explained the matter and then said with some regret, "It's a pity that I don't have the qualifications to challenge you. Otherwise, I would have wanted to sing a double act with you and earn a lot of money." Su Yu frowned slightly and said, "The Peak of the Mountain and Sea Realms article of will? Zhou Mingren gave it to you? It should be. If you defeat me, you'll give me a copy? There's no limit to the number of times." "No." Xia Huyo shrugged and said, "You've also discovered a loophole, right? I've already discovered it a long time ago. Unfortunately, I'm not a student ranked in the top 90. Even if I'm ranked 89th, I'm still qualified to challenge you. Let's just act for once." Su Yu rolled his eyes and said, "Even if you're ranked 89th, you'll only have one chance if you beat me. I've dropped to 89th. How are you going to win?" Nonsense, if you challenge me again, I'll lose to you again. Win or lose until they stop. As Xia Huyo said that, he laughed and said, "Don't tell me, what do you think? Why don't I find you a support? How about the two of you continue to rank?" You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 597, had its own thousands of books for. Chapter 597, Chapter 159 had its own thousands of books for. There are no restrictions in the academy. There is one point. The top 100 students did not advance in the rankings. They can only challenge 3 times a month. Xia Huyo smiled and said, "That is to say, you are ranked 71st. If you want to challenge 70th place and fail 3 times in a row, you are not allowed to challenge this month. However, it does not affect you. You guys go back and forth in the rankings, and your rankings increase. What's the big deal?" Suyu laughed and said speechlessly, "To think that you could think of such a thing. This kind of thing is too immoral, and that person might not even dare to do it. Are you really not afraid of death?" "That's true." Nodding his head, Xia Huyo agreed with his words. Who was so bold to really keep going back and forth, and wasn't afraid of the Shanghai realm causing trouble? Although the Shanghai realm couldn't attack you, there weren't many ways to deal with you. Suyu smiled and said, "As the saying goes, the law does not punish the masses. If one person offended the single divine pros faction, they would be afraid. If it was a group of people, they would not be afraid at all." As he said that, he shook his head and said, "Zhou Mingren and the others, their brains must have become stiff." Speaking of this, Suyu did not take it seriously at all. He casually said, "Tomorrow, I will set up a stage. The 89th to 72nd place will all come. I will lose to them once. According to the ranking, one by one, I will lose 1 place at a time. I can even exchange it for dozens of articles of will." "That's not right." Suyu muttered, "I've lost my ranking. I've fallen to the 89th place. Doesn't that mean that the people behind me can also come and beat me up?" Suyu rubbed his chin and said, "All right, those ranked behind me will all come. Each person will beat me up once. There are dozens of people. If they don't think it's enough, I'll go up again and beat me up again. One by one, they can beat me up for dozens of rounds." I don't believe that he alone in the divine literature department would dare to take care of one person, but he still dares to take care of everyone. Suyu curled his lips, "Just nice, I'll sell it to all the students in the academy. If it really doesn't work, I'll drop out of the top 100. It's not a big deal. If I drop out, those with good character can challenge me. I didn't say that it has to be a battle ranking on the top 100. Just say that you'll defeat me. Right, why don't we all come over tomorrow to have a good character?" Suyu chuckled and said, "Our academy has tens of thousands of good character, right? All of you come up. I admit defeat. Everyone has a book. I want to see how they'll play." Xia Huyo looked at him in a daze. "I just want to farm a few books to take advantage of you. You're awesome. You actually let the entire academy have tens of thousands of good character to farm you. Aren't you too ruthless?" As Suyu said this, suddenly, he said, "No, it's too embarrassing to do it for free. How about this, for those who challenge me, each of you will receive 1 merit point. I'm magnanimous. Anyone can afford 1 merit point. Is there a problem? It's so little. Isn't it worth it to exchange it for the article of will? From tomorrow onwards, I'll receive clients. It shouldn't be a problem for me to receive a few thousand people a day, right?" Suyu was elated. It shouldn't be a big problem for him to receive so little merit points, right? As he said that, he felt that it wasn't a good idea. He frowned and said, "No, this will make me look too easy to bully. If I'm kind, I'll be bullied. How about this? Tomorrow, I'll accept a few battles first. Those bastards who are anxious to challenge me, I'll show them what a big stick is. I'll kill a few of them first. When it's time to be ruthless, use both kindness and power. That way, everyone will respect me and be grateful to me. Otherwise, they'll take it for granted that I got something for free. Xia Huyo looked at him in a daze. After a long while, he said, "Your father is the city lord?" "What? Your politics are very good." Xia Huyo stared at him. What kind of situation was he in? He also knew these things, but he learned them through word of mouth. Suyu taught himself without a teacher. Suyu chuckled and said, "It's just a child's trick. Read more books. They're all in the books. Tomorrow, I'll demonstrate first. Let everyone know that I, Suyu, am not a good person to mess with. After the demonstration, I'll show mercy." Suyu smiled and said, "As for whether Zhou Mingren will give it to me or not, it has nothing to do with me." "Oh right, is there anyone in the black market who accepts such a mission? Once Zhou Mingren doesn't pay up, would anyone dare to take the lead and cause trouble? Pull a banner, call out the parents, sue the imperial court, look for the school, go to the Department of Education and Strengthening." Xia Huyo looked at him in a daze. "You're so bold. Suyu, aren't you afraid of offending him?" "Nonsense, I've already offended him long ago. Do I have a way?" Suyu said gloomily, "How can I have time to quarrel with him now? It's not like he can directly make a move on me. Why should I be afraid of him? His people challenged me. At worst, I'll just admit defeat. Do you really think I'll suffer because I want to save face? In your eyes, Suyu probably won't admit defeat even if I die. Just like my senior sister, I'll fight to the end. This is what I should do, right?" "Right." Xia Huyo nodded. That was exactly what everyone thought, including Zhou Mingren. That was why they gave such a condition. To a genius, failure was a disgrace. With Suyu's strength, there weren't many students who could defeat him. Therefore, according to everyone's thoughts, there weren't many who could defeat Suyu. Even if someone did defeat Suyu in the end, it wasn't a big deal. At most, there were only a few people. Could Zhou Mingren afford it? He could afford it. "It's just a few people, I'll give it to you." As for Suyu, after failing a few times, does he still have the spirit he has now? I'm afraid he's gone. This is what they think, or rather, everyone's inherent concept. Suyu couldn't be bothered with it. He was crippled after failing once. What the hell? I've failed a few thousand times, and every time, I was killed by a monster. If I were crippled after failing once, I would have been crippled after being killed so many times. When you are used to it, do you still care about this? After using both kindness and power, would anyone think that he, Suyu, was useless? You must be joking. Just think about what happened to Huang Qifeng and you will know. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 598 of the book had thousands of ways to do so. Chapter 598, Chapter 159 of the book had thousands of ways to do so. When it was time to be ruthless, Suyu was no worse than anyone else. At that time, everyone would only be grateful to him. If Zhou Mingren did not honor it, everyone would only be resentful. The majestic mountains and seas were talking like farts. It was extremely embarrassing. Suyu felt that he did not need tens of thousands of people. If he lost dozens of times, something would probably go wrong. If something went wrong, Zhou Mingren's side would retaliate. Thinking of this, Suyu suddenly said, "There's no rush. Help me keep an eye on the few Shanghai realm experts. When they are in closed-door cultivation, or when they are out, or when they have a meeting, you can tell me. I will organize a challenge again and give them no time to react." Xia Huyo's eyes moved slightly, and he quickly said, "How about this, I will go find someone and find the pavilion elder. Have a meeting. Stall them for a few hours. Suyu, why don't you pay?" Scram. Suyu said unhappily, "I don't have money, so don't think too much. You can totally make a huge profit." "Me?" Xia Huyo said in a speechless manner, "What do I earn? At most, I'll beat you once. Everyone wins, so it's not considered a huge profit, right?" Suyu said in a speechless manner, "Are you stupid? The person who wins might not be able to get the item. Go buy it. The person who beats me will have an article of will. Although it's fake, go buy it. Get them to write an IOU for you. If they can't get an article of will, you can spend 10 merit points to buy it. Do you think they'll sell it to you? Of course they will. Of course, it won't work in the beginning. When they can't get it and Zhou Mingren reneges on his debt, you can go and buy it. Then, take these things and ask the Xia family to buy it." Even Suyu could guess that they definitely couldn't get it. Thousands or tens of thousands of books. Did they really think that the wealth of a single divine text could rival a country? Just the cost alone was astonishingly high. The Xia family has these things in their hands. How dare they not give it to them? Even if they can't afford it, they can look for Master Xia Ho. I know Master Xia Ho's temper. Go and peel off a layer of their skin. They dare to renege on their debt. Xia Huyo had an embarrassed expression. These words, who said that my second grandfather was a skinner? But, come to think of it, it really made sense. In this way, Suyu earned money, and the students didn't lose out, but they could also earn some. Everyone would thank the Xia family, thank Suyu, and the Xia family definitely wouldn't lose out either. You, Zhou Mingren, dare to renege on the student's debt, dare to renege on the Xia family's debt? If you don't peel off a layer of skin, Lord Xia Ho would not even be called a peel-off. The Divine Literature Department alone had treasures. Not to mention other things, just some proprietary technology, the Divine Literature Department alone had grasped quite a bit of it. It was all money. Just as he was excited, he suddenly looked at Suyu and said gloomily, "Suyu, you really have a black heart. You even dare to scheme against the Xia family. You, this fellow, have extraordinary courage." He had almost forgotten. If the Xia family were to step in, it would mean that the Xia family and the Shan Shenwen faction would be competing. When that time came, would the badly battered Zhou Mingren still have time to care about Suyu and the others? Killing one arrow would kill many birds with one stone. He had fawned on the entire student body, disgusted the Shan Shenwen faction, and even made the Xia family step in to compete with the Shan Shenwen faction. Then, the Shan Shenwen faction was so badly battered that they did not have the time to care about him. This fellow did not look like a student no matter how one looked at him. He looked like an old fox. Suyu said indifferently, "Whether you want to do it or not, I did not ask your Xia family to come forward. Without the Xia family, I asked Qing Yunhui to buy it, and the Jing family came to ask for money. Even if they could not get it, the Jing family and the School of Civilization have always been on bad terms. If you discuss the School of Civilization and publicize it, then you would be happy to pay." Suyu said indifferently, "Anyway, I won't be able to get much benefit from it. Do you want to do it or not? Aren't you afraid that there are many people in the Divine Literature Department? If not, then the Nine Heavens University, or the Dragon Martial University, or simply the Dragon Martial Guards, or the Demon Suppression Army. Aren't you afraid of them?" Suyu sneered and said, "My father is in the Demon Suppression Army. If it doesn't work out, I'll go find the people from the Demon Suppression Army. I guarantee that they'll be happy to make a fortune. I've heard that they hate these guys very much now because Mayor Wan asked them to stop fighting." Xia Huyo stared at him for a while before saying, "Did the books teach you all this?" Suyu smiled but didn't say anything. "Of course they did in the books. The main thing was that I was smart. Ever since I was young, Su Yu, have never suffered any losses. Scheming against me. What for? It's already good enough that I'm not looking for trouble with you guys. Zhou Mingren and the others may be strong and smart, but everyone's positions are different. You, Zhou Mingren, are thinking about face, but I'm not thinking about this. I'm thinking about benefits and benefits. Losing my reputation is nothing. You, Zhou Mingren, are giving me 10,000 merit points right now. I'll let my teacher and I acknowledge you as our teacher. How about that? Su Yu thought about it and suddenly burst into laughter. Xia Huyo looked at him speechlessly. This fellow is really difficult to deal with. Talented, intelligent, shameless, cunning, vicious, and vicious. He's good at disguising himself. He's a typical hypocrite. All freakish geniuses were proud. Su Yu was also proud, but he was different from the others. He was a bit more cunning. Xia Huyo took a deep breath. After a long time, he said in a low voice, "Okay, I'll try. How about this? Tomorrow, I'll ask an elder to call them for a meeting in the Heart Cultivation Pavilion. No one is allowed to disturb them, and only the elder is allowed to enter. Drag it out for a few hours. Even if they find out later, it's already a done deal." Su Yu stared at him for a while and said faintly, "Elder, you can already order them around." "Xia Huyo, are you Master Xia Ho's son?" "Tisk. What nonsense." Xia Huyo said unhappily, "Nonsense. If I'm his son, I'm not a human, and Master Xia Ho is a pig. He's not his grandson either. Don't even think about it. If I were his grandson, I would commit suicide. I've already said it. I'm just a branch of the Xia family. What are you thinking about?" Su Yu could not help but laugh and curse in his heart. *CK your grandpa. Lord Xia Ho is a pig, you even dare to say such words. If he's not his son or grandson, he's also an important figure in the Xia family. Am I that stupid? P.S. Monthly ticket subscription. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 599, I Want to Wear a Vest 1. Chapter 599, Chapter 160, I Want to Wear a Vest 1. Su Yu was too lazy to argue with Xia Huyo. If you want to deny it, then deny it. I'll just pretend that I don't know anything. Even if he was really an important figure in the Xia family, Su Yu did not care too much. The Xia family's reputation was not bad. He had never heard of any bullying. To be able to rule the great Xia family for more than 300 years and have such a bad reputation, a large group of experts had long rebelled. Su Yu did not continue this topic and quickly said, "The last time I asked you to purchase the blood essence of the 5 elements race, did you buy it?" "I bought it." "Not much." Xia Huyu said helplessly, "The 5 elements race is really too rare. Moreover, their strength is very strong. You only bought the blood essence of the 10,000 stone realm. Even if you were to gather it from other big manors, there would not be much. The price of this item was also very expensive. The essence blood of the 5 elements clan. If Su Yu were to purchase a drop of the stone realm, that would be 50 merit points. Su Yu was prepared to purchase some and open the cultivation method. Then, when the cultivation method was opened, he would open the divine aperture. As long as he opened 36 divine apertures, he would be able to start cultivating willpower without using the essence blood in the future. Cut the crap. How many have you collected? I've purchased a total of 60 drops. 60 drops, that was too little. Su Yu made a judgment. To open one god aperture, he needed at least 2 or 3 drops of blood essence. 60 drops, he could open 25 at most. Give me 60 drops first, then buy me another 40 drops, at least. 100 drops of 5 elements blood essence might barely be enough. Thinking of this, Suyu suddenly said, has anyone recently mentioned the soul-devouring bug's innate blood essence? Xia Huyo glanced at him, he narrowed his eyes and smiled, there really is. Not only in the academy, there were people outside the academy who were inquiring about this matter. Of course, the outside world was more concerned about whether this innate blood essence was a willpower innate skill. If it was, then the fighter wouldn't be able to use it because it involves willpower. If it wasn't, then the fighter would also be very concerned. Suyu smiled and said softly, this thing is not some willpower talent. It's just a mutated special martial technique. It's a martial technique that has the effect of harming willpower. Xia Huyo fell into deep thought. It was a martial technique. He had actually guessed that it was a martial technique because the Xia family had records of the soul-devouring worm. All sorts of information showed that the soul-devouring worm's willpower was not that great. The soul-devouring fluid that corroded willpower was also very similar to mutated Yuan Qi. The Xia family actually had their own research team. It was impossible for them to rely on outsiders. Martial technique. Xia Huyo pondered for a moment. Suyu, if it's a martial technique, this thing is actually more precious than the willpower talent technique. You are not stupid and know what this means. Of course, it still depends on the cost and the realm. Suyu said with a smile, I know. If it's purely talent essence blood, it's actually nothing much. But what if I were to say that if we were to research the opening points of the soul-devouring skill, the human race could also open their openings and undergo Yuan Qi mutation, what do you think? Oh. Xia Huyo's heart jolted as he hurriedly looked at Suyu. Really? The human race had always been deducing cultivation techniques that were suitable for the human race from the cultivation techniques of the 10,000 races. Many of the cultivation techniques and martial techniques that the human race was learning now were adapted from the cultivation techniques of the 10,000 races. However, under normal circumstances, humans mostly derived the cultivation techniques of large-scale creatures. For creatures like the soul-devouring bugs, the difference in structure between the bugs and humans was too great, and the difficulty of deriving was too high. Furthermore, the soul-devouring bug clan had yet to inherit any cultivation techniques. It was very, very difficult to obtain the original cultivation techniques from a group of bugs. However, some people had encountered the mother bugs, and after killing them, they obtained a small amount of the original cultivation techniques. Xia Huyo said in shock, you can really derive this cultivation technique and martial technique that is suitable for humans? Are you sure? Are you sure that it can mutate one's Yuan Qi and cause damage to one's willpower? He could understand the importance of this cultivation technique. Suyu said indifferently, it hasn't been perfected yet. My grandmaster has been studying the soul-devouring insect's characteristics since 30 years ago. My teacher is also an elite in this aspect. No, or rather, a genius. A true genius. Through his continuous research, he has already deduced some operating acupoints. Xia Huyo nodded. No one denied that Bai Feng was a genius. Even if he was only at the 6th level of the soaring heaven realm before, people still called him a genius teaching assistant. His strength was one point, and another point was that Bai Feng was also considered a figure in the field of blood essence research. Xia Huyo took a deep breath and said, what you mean by saying this to me is trade. Suyu thought for a moment and said, although this cultivation method has not been deduced yet, I am confident that it will be perfected very soon. Once it is perfected, I wonder if it will be spread out. If it is spread out, the strength of the human race will increase greatly. Not everyone is willing to open additional apertures, but at least some ambitious people are willing to open these apertures. But if it gets out, how can we guarantee the benefits of our research institute? Will we be the same as the others, collecting the patent fees for cultivation methods? Suyu said in a deep voice, this thing, we mean to target the civilized masters of the myriad races, but in the eyes of outsiders, perhaps they feel that we are targeting our own people, our own civilized masters. Then our situation will be very difficult. When Xia Huyo heard this, he immediately disapproved, he even said somewhat angrily, who cares about them? This great Xia manor is still the Xia family's great Xia manor. Pass it on, you must pass it on. If you don't dare, then the Xia family will buy it off. Then the Xia family will be in charge of the inheritance. Increasing the strength of the human race was something that all the masters of the big manors were doing. Since a portion of the fighters could have a trump card when targeting the civilized masters, this cultivation technique was extremely important. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 600, I Need to Wear a Vest Too. Chapter 600, Chapter 160, I Need to Wear a Vest Too. Of course, not everyone could open a portion of the acupoints. However, some genius fighters definitely wouldn't mind opening a few more acupoints. This cultivation technique was especially lethal to civilized masters. As Xia Huyo spoke, he suddenly said, Elder Hong isn't back yet, and you want to spread the cultivation technique, this. He won't change his mind when he comes back, right? That would be troublesome. After all, he was an expert of the 8th layer of the mountain and sea realm. Taking advantage of his absence, you could be considered to have half bought and half cheated him out of his cultivation technique. If he were to cause a ruckus, even if the Xia family wasn't afraid, it would cause many people to feel disappointed. Especially on the side of the civilized masters. There would definitely be someone who would add fuel to the fire, and that would be even more troublesome. Su Yu shrugged and smiled. It has nothing to do with me. My teacher said that there was no problem. He said that most of the information was completed by him. Before my grandmaster left, he also instructed that the entire research institute's projects and results would be taken care of by my teacher. Right. That's good. Teacher Bai will be responsible for it. Xia Huyo nodded, he said with some joy, Su Yu, splitting the profits and taking the royalties is a long-term business. I won't lie to you. The long-term profits will definitely be more beneficial to you. There will be profits every year. If you live, your descendants will be able to get money. But the future is hard to say. And you might not be able to live for long. When he said this, Su Yu looked at him strangely. He realized that these bastards seemed to be eager for his death. Xia Huyo coughed dryly and said, I don't mean that. What I mean is that this is the work of your research institute, not an individual's. So, you might not be able to get much. It's better to buy it all at once. At least you can get some. How much is it to buy it all? 5,000 merit points. Su Yu nearly smashed him to death with one punch. Are you sure? Xia Huyo said dryly, although the soul-devouring bug's martial technique has the effect of Yuan Qi mutation, I feel that there shouldn't be many openings. The soul-devouring bug isn't a powerful race. In that case, unless a person from an army cultivates, only then can it cause large-scale corrosion and burn effects, just like how the soul-devouring bug's large-scale gathering can have powerful lethality. But the additional enlightenment is originally the exclusive property of geniuses. It's also somewhat impossible for an army to cultivate it, so this cultivation technique is actually rather useless. It didn't sound like a lie, and it wasn't without reason. But Su Yu wouldn't believe this fellow at all. 5,000 points, what a joke. When Xia Huyu saw this, he said, it's true. After all, the cultivation technique hasn't been popularized. I don't know how universal it is, so buying it for 5,000 points isn't a small amount. You have to know that back then, everyone was cultivating the 1000 June technique series of cultivation techniques. In fact, they only sold it for a soaring demon beast's money. Su Yu rolled his eyes. Damn it, I know this, do I need you to say it? Let's talk about it later. Su Yu did not haggle over the price and said, I haven't derived it yet. When it's truly perfected, or after I cultivate it myself, I'll see the results first. Xia Huyo was anxious. He hurriedly said, Su Yu, 10,000 points is really not a small amount. If you want to sell it to the Xia family. Don't hand it over to the academy. The academy is full of civilized masters, and they might directly seal it away. That won't be of much help to the human race. The academy shouldn't be so short-sighted, right? That's hard to say. Xia Huyo shook his head and said, civilized masters and warriors are said to be one family. Do you really think that they are one family? Even if they are brothers, there must be a difference in power. Do you still expect the two big cultivation systems to coexist peacefully without any conflict at all? Su Yu nodded slightly. It made sense. In the world of cultivators, there were two big and different systems. It would be a lie to say that they were really as close as a family. Civilized masters looked down on fighters, and fighters also looked down on civilized masters. One called the other a boorish man, and the other said that the other was weak. If it was a normal cultivation method, then forget it. Many of the fighters' cultivation methods were developed and provided by civilized masters. However, such cultivation methods that were harmful to civilized masters themselves might not be shared by civilized masters. Su Yu was too lazy to say anything more and said, we'll see. I already said that I haven't developed it yet, but you have to help me think of a way to suppress the noise outside so that no one will have any ideas about us. Sure. Xia Huyo readily agreed and hurriedly said, no problem. I'll mention it to a few experts of the Xia family so that your research can continue smoothly. I hope that you can produce the results as soon as possible. All right. Su Yu nodded. He said all this in order to avoid the interference of external factors. The Xia family was the #1 great fighter aristocratic family. As the controller of the Xia family, they hoped that there would be as many experts as possible in the territory. Everyone would be able to increase their combat strength, but they would not care too much about whether they were fighters or civilized masters. The two of them chatted for a while, but Su Yu did not mention the matter of bringing Xia Huyo into the circle. An important figure in the Xia family. This identity was taboo. Xia Huyo was well informed, his identity was important, and he had a powerful figure behind him. At this moment, Su Yu did not dare to mention anything about bringing him into the circle. The other party did not need your help, and some of the things that you brought out might even cause him to want to guess more. Deducing 1 or 2 cultivation techniques was okay, but deducing tens or hundreds of them. If you were so awesome, why didn't you ascend to heaven? Did you really think that everyone else was an idiot? Give me the 5 elements essence blood. It's at my place. Come with me to get it. When the two of them talked about the essence blood, Xia Huyo hurriedly said, 60 drops are worth up to 3,000 merit points. The 7,000 points you received last time left you with 4,000 merit points. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 601, I Need to Wear a Vest 3. Chapter 601, Chapter 160, I Need to Wear a Vest. Su Yu nodded slightly and didn't say anything. Also, buy me some soul-devouring worm blood essence. Oh right, there's also the bright bird blood essence and the mountain-breaking cow blood essence. Su Yu gave a few reminders. He wanted to buy more such blood essence. It would be best if he could make his own innate blood essence. When he really made his innate blood essence, he could say that he had done a lot of research and deduced a cultivation method in reverse, so as to avoid suspicion. When Su Yu obtained the 5 elements blood essence, he heaved a sigh of relief. He hoped that he could open more divine apertures. Even if he didn't form the entire formula, opening another divine aperture would allow him to passively absorb some willpower, allowing his willpower to grow faster. He wanted to ascend into the sky as soon as possible. It wasn't Su Yu's goal to be stuck for a few years. It was already a huge waste of time to draw more divine inscriptions. If his willpower wasn't strong enough, he might really need to ascend into the sky for many years. Thinking about how he was the same as Teacher Lu, soaring into the sky after a few decades. Su Yu couldn't help but shudder. Too tragic. Before he left, Xia Huyo hurriedly said, "Right, are you sure you want to appear tomorrow to challenge those students?" Su Yu smiled and said, "Of course. Right, it's best if the elders hold a meeting after I defeat a few of them. This way, they might observe for a while and realize that I really want to save face and refuse to admit defeat. If I fight to the death, these people will probably feel comfortable. Once they see that I've fought to the death in the arena and satisfied their vanity, they'll finally be able to defeat me, Su Yu. They'll be in a good mood and probably won't bother about the rest." Admitting defeat as soon as they arrived wasn't possible. They had to calm their hearts. "I, Su Yu, am a genius. I refuse to admit defeat even if I die. Admitting defeat means taking my life. I want to fight for victory." Xia Huyo grimaced. "Damn you, your heart is really black. This way, even if there were any more movements outside, these pavilion elders might not investigate anymore." Thinking of this, he suddenly said, "Why don't you call your senior uncle tomorrow? He is at the 9th stage of Lingyun realm. Why don't we let him seal off the area around the arena?" In order to prevent the previous incident from happening, even if those pavilion elders sensed some movements, they wouldn't dare to rashly use their willpower to investigate again. How black-hearted. Su Yu cursed in his heart. "You still have the nerve to say that about me? You're even more black-hearted. Uncle Master." That's right. The previous incident with Chen Yuming was still ahead of them. Now that Chen Yong had run over again, even if the arena was noisy and the pavilion elders of the Heart Cultivation Pavilion felt that something was different, as long as nothing major happened. Would anyone still come to investigate? They wouldn't. Were they really not afraid that the same scene from before would happen again? When the time came, everything would be over by the time they came out of the meeting. Su Yu glanced at him and the two of them looked at each other and smiled. In the blink of an eye, Su Yu said, "My uncle master, the appearance fee is very expensive. How about 3,000 merit points?" Xia Huyo blinked. "You said that I would pay." "That's right." "On what basis?" "On the basis that you want to earn a large sum of money from the single divine language department. Is this enough?" "I'm just drinking some soup. Do you think I'll let Lingyun 9 Dan watch over the place for nothing?" There was nothing wrong with what he said. However, Xia Huyo did some calculations. "Damn it, I haven't gotten anything yet, and I've already paid so much. Will I be able to make up for it in the end?" Looking at Su Yu somewhat speechlessly, Xia Huyo said unhappily, "Then what if we don't get anything in the end? Is there no risk in doing business?" Su Yu smiled and said, "If you don't even dare to take on some of the initial investment, how are you going to do a big business?" "You." Xia Huyo took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "Su Yu, why don't you come to the Xia Trading Company? I'll give you a high position. Don't worry, your position will definitely not be low. If you do well, you can even take charge of a manners business in the future." "I'm not interested." Su Yu shook his head. "Become a merchant. Stop fooling around. I'm a man destined to become an expert." Thinking of this, Su Yu thought of a problem and said, "Oh right, do you know where Zhang Hao lives?" "N. Are you looking for him?" "Not really. I'm looking for someone with the divine talisman faculty. Zhang Hao just happens to know him." "Divine talisman faculty. You want to buy a divine talisman?" Su Yu smiled and looked at him. Xia Huyo was embarrassed. Forget it. It was not good to ask too much. Very quickly, he told Su Yu where Zhang Hao was. "Nature Garden, Special Class Area." Zhang Hao and these freakish students all lived in this area. Not only them, but some of the older genius students who did not have free time also lived here. That fellow Xia Huyo did not run this way. At this moment, the sky was already dark. After passing the entrance guard, Suyu walked on a small path in the special class area and sighed. The environment was really beautiful, and the vitality was also abundant. It was a good place to cultivate. No wonder these guys all ran over here. 100 merit points a year wasn't a small amount. Villa number 189. Suyu gently knocked on the door. Soon, someone replied, "Who is it?" "Brother Zhang, Suyu is here to visit." The moment he said that, the door was quickly opened. Zhang Hao looked surprised. Suyu was here to visit him. Suyu. When Zhang Hao saw Suyu, he said in surprise, "Why are you here?" "Brother Zhang, you don't welcome me." "That's not the case." Zhang Hao smiled and said, "It should be an honor. Over the past 2 days, a large group of people have been looking for you, but they haven't seen you. It would be an honor for me to be able to see you." "Brother Zhang, don't laugh at me." Suyu couldn't help but laugh. Zhang Hao quickly said, "Go in and have a seat." Suyu walked in and sighed. "Rich people, how extravagant. Such a large room, yet you're the only one living in it. What a waste." You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 602, I Need to Wear a Vest for. Chapter 602, Chapter 160, I Need to Wear a Vest for. The hall on the first floor was almost 100 square meters. Zhang Hao was very polite to Suyu. As a monster student, Zhang Hao was naturally very proud. However, it depended on who he targeted. Even if it was the previous monster or this year's Wan Mingze and the others, he didn't care too much. Suyu was different. He had defeated him in the divine literature competition. 2 days ago, he was even more ruthless. In the blink of an eye, he had defeated Huang Qifeng. He had some admiration for Suyu. A hero cherishes a hero. This was probably the reason. Sitting down, they chatted for a while. Suyu did not waste any time and said, "Brother Zhang, last time, I swallowed the soul-devouring worm's essence blood and injured you. Do you still remember this?" Zhang Hao was embarrassed. "Did he come here to make fun of me?" "Brother Zhang, don't misunderstand." Suyu sighed. "It's like this. The soul-devouring worm's essence blood last time was the only finished product of our research institute. It can be considered as an experiment. Later on, when we tried to manufacture it again, we found that there were frequent problems. The outer layer of the blood essence couldn't be stabilized and it was easy to explode." Suyu smiled and said, "After many failures, I thought of the divine talisman system and Brother Zhang. Last time, when you dealt with those explosive divine runes of mine, I took a look and found that they weren't too stable either. However, you can control them and make them explode before they explode." This was also some inspiration from Suyu himself. Who said that the Divine Runes department had to make their own blood essence? The Divine Runes department seemed to be very good at sealing things. That teacher of his had been thinking about self-sufficiency all day long. Speaking of this, Zhang Hao's interest was instantly piqued. He hurriedly said, "Soul-devouring bug's innate skill. You want to create the blood essence of your innate skill, but the outer layer of blood essence isn't stable enough?" "Yes, it's easy to explode." Zhang Hao smiled and said, "Definitely. Last time, I tried the soul-devouring bug's innate skill. Corrosion, burning, this thing is like exploding divine runes, it's definitely not stable. Last time, I thought that you guys had already solved this problem, that's why you were able to successfully create it. But now, it seems like it's not. Was it just an accident?" "Yes." Zhang Hao's face immediately lit up with joy. You don't say, I'm really good at this. Actually, I've been researching this topic recently, or the blood essence innate skill. Many civilized people are researching it. Because of your blood essence innate skill, I don't have a sample, so I can only make some judgments. You guys should have extracted some innate skill imprints and then wrapped them with another blood essence. Suyu had to admit that he really admired these guys. Too smart. The students were all so smart. What were Zhou Pingsheng and the others thinking? How did they fall for it? Suyu was a little speechless. He thought about it and couldn't help but laugh. He could roughly understand it. First, he had really exploded. Second, it was probably related to the fluctuation of divine runes that he had casually mentioned. He said that the fluctuation of divine runes had changed some of the internal structure of the blood essence. Those guys had probably been studying this recently, and not the extraction of the innate imprint within. They might have thought that using the fluctuation of the divine runes could change the internal imprint. Suyu suddenly felt that, it might not necessarily not be a method. If he could really extract the innate imprint without shattering the blood essence and shatter the other remnants, wouldn't the original blood essence layer be better? This time, Suyu was suddenly stunned. This might not be a bad method. Moreover, the method to create it was simpler and more complete. There was no need to separate the blood essence. At this moment, Suyu was a little absent-minded. He was in a daze. I'm really a genius. This thought suddenly appeared in his heart. If I really can separate the innate imprint from within and shatter the resentment and memory fragments, then that would be a drop of innate blood essence. Suyu swallowed his saliva. If that was the case, then I would really have created a method to create innate blood essence. However, the blood essence doesn't separate. I don't think I can go deep into the blood essence and separate the imprint. Suyu rubbed his head. Unless there was a special divine text that could directly go into the blood essence and separate the imprint. Don't say it, it's really a method. Suyu was a little surprised. I'm too amazing. At this moment, he suddenly understood why he could deceive so many people. These guys probably thought the same way, right? He really hadn't thought this way before. The main reason was that he didn't understand the process at all. As for the materials he used, they might have understood it as a process to soften the blood essence. During this process, the blood essence could allow the divine rune or willpower to pass through. Maybe that's the case. Vinegar, soy sauce, these things, they might really think that they are used to soften the blood essence. Otherwise, Shanhai and Ling Yun wouldn't be so stupid as to believe in such a messy research method. Zhang Hao had been looking at Suyu the entire time. He wasn't surprised at all when he saw Suyu's mind wander as he spoke. Geniuses were all like this. Those who were engaged in research would usually be able to get an inspiration from a single sentence and fall into their own world. He could completely understand, because he himself was often like this. He just admired Suyu even more. At the same time, he was powerful, but he didn't forget his role as a civilized master. He was indeed a monster, a genius. After a while, Suyu woke up and said apologetically, I'm sorry, I just thought of something. It's okay. Zhang Hao didn't care about this, he smiled and said, Suyu, you just said that there was a problem with the blood essence layer. Actually, when you came to find me, I felt that you had other thoughts, such as changing this layer into a divine talisman to wrap it. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 603, I Need to Wear a Vest 5. Chapter 603, Chapter 160, I Need to Wear a Vest 5. Suyu nodded and smiled. That's right. That's what I'm thinking. Maybe I can add an extra layer of protective film to the wrapping layer. Something like a capsule that can ensure that it won't explode. You found the right person for this. Zhang Hao was overjoyed. If you find someone else for this thing, the cost will be extremely high. It's not that I don't have a stable divine talisman shell, but the price is too high. My divine runes, you know, are a special type of divine runes. I can continuously peel off small disposable divine runes. As long as I can eliminate the explosive characteristics within, then the disposable divine runes shell that I peel off can be completely used as a capsule. Suyu frowned and said, You haven't manifested the divine runes yet. This doesn't need to be manifested by the divine runes. It can be manifested by willpower. Zhang Hao hurriedly said, Suyu, how about this? As long as you promise to provide me with some soul-devouring worm's innate blood essence, I'll help you stabilize your blood essence for free. How about it? Suyu glanced at him and suddenly said, I'm thinking of a question. If the innate blood essence is not devoured but guided by the characteristics of your divine runes and detonated, will it directly explode the innate skill and corrode the willpower of others? Zhang Hao's eyes lit up. It's possible. If that's the case, then I'll be amazing. Controlling hundreds of drops of soul-devouring worm's blood essence, even if it's against soaring in the sky, hundreds of times using your innate skill can corrode the other party's willpower and heavily injure the other party. Zhang Hao gulped and said, Don't say that, Suyu. Your idea might really come true. At that time, I will be an army of soul-devouring beetles on my own. Of course, it depends on how much I can peel off and how strong my willpower is. The number of times I can really explode right now is only about 100 times. 100 explosions of divine runes, because my divine runes aren't too strong. Actually, I can only explode weaklings like Lin Qing. But once I add the soul-devouring beetle's blood essence, let alone Lin Qing, even Zhan Hai would probably cry after being blasted 100 times by me. Zhan Hai was still in the air. Using the soul-devouring worm's essence blood to explode corrosive skills, corroding and burning him, wouldn't Zhan Hai cry? Thinking of this, Zhang Hao was so excited that his face turned red. It was as if he had opened up a new life. Suyu said with a smile, Don't be excited. There are many difficulties. Furthermore, the cost of the innate blood essence is also high. The soul-devouring worm's innate skill is actually a martial skill. It mainly carries out Yuan Qi mutation. Of course, with the essence blood at the periphery, it can provide Yuan Qi. It doesn't have much of an effect. Even so, Suyu still said, the main issue is the cost. Even if you can really do it, do you know how much a drop of innate blood essence is worth? If you can explode 100 drops at once, that would only hurt people like Zhan Hai. How much would it cost? Zhang Hao was stunned for a moment. That seemed to be the case. *CK, the innate blood essence was very expensive, right? How much is a drop? For this thing, even if it was mass-produced, just the blood essence itself would cost 3 merit points per drop. Moreover, the blood essence was only a material. The extraction process and the amount of blood essence that was wasted, no matter how mass-produced it is, it wouldn't be able to be obtained without 10 merit points. 10 merit points was actually not considered expensive. However, Zhang Hao suddenly felt a chill down his spine. Then, he would have to spend 100 drops of merit points. Forget it, it would be a loss even if he couldn't kill Lin Yun. With his current strength, he would be lucky if he could kill Zhan Hai with 100 drops of merit points. He wouldn't be able to kill Zhan Hai even if he was in the air. Suyu smiled and said, It can't be considered as a common tactic, but it's still very useful as a trump card. When your willpower becomes stronger, you'll be able to split more one-time divine talismans. If you split 500 one-time divine talismans, 500 soul-devouring bugs in the 1,000 June realm and spray the soul-devouring liquid together, can you kill Ting Kong? That won't do. There'll be at least 1,000 of them. Zhang Hao's eyes lit up as he said, Let's not talk about it. Before I soar into the sky, there's a high chance that I'll be able to split out 1,000 one-time divine talismans. If I can really use them, I'll be able to kill Soaring Sky. This is very impressive. Suyu smiled and said, that's why I said that being a trump card is still very impressive. Right now, it's only 1,000 June if you can extract some of the soul-devouring bug's blood essence in the 10,000 stone realm. If you can still control tens of millions of soul-devouring bugs in the stone realm and spray them at the same time, do you think you'll be able to kill Ling Yun? I don't think so. However, those at the later stage of the soaring stage will be seriously injured and dying. Zhang Hao became excited and said hurriedly, Su Yu, since we don't know each other until we fight, we can be considered friends, right? Let's cooperate. I'll provide you with a protective membrane. You don't have to give me your blood essence. You can sell it to me, but you have to sell it in large quantities. Su Yu smiled. He had the Soul Eater formula, but that didn't mean that everyone could open their apertures. Therefore, his blood essence was still very valuable. This thing was actually the same as the divine talisman. It was a one-time use product. For example, Zhang Hao. Even if he opened those apertures himself, it wouldn't be very useful. How much damage could a person's explosive power cause? As for Zhang Hao's divine script, once he could control hundreds or thousands of drops of blood essence to explode and burst out his talent skill, the lethality would be terrifying. We'll test the effect later. If it succeeds, then we'll talk. If it doesn't succeed, then it's all for naught, right? That's true. Zhang Hao nodded, but he wasn't that anxious. Su Yu was thinking about whether or not he should use this opportunity to pull this number one genius of the Divine Runes department into his association. He would see later. Even if Zhang Hao cooperated with him to stabilize the blood essence, he would probably have to enter the research center at a close distance. He still had to consult by phone. However, he had gained a lot today. He might have a solution to stabilize the soul-devouring worm's blood essence. Mutual aid meeting. Formula. Innate blood essence. Su Yu muttered in his heart. He had to put on the coat of a research genius. To a civilized master, sometimes, Ling Yun and Shan Hai might not even be comparable to a genius with outstanding talent in research. In other words, it was the same for the entire human race. Zhao Li's status was very high. Even the pavilion elders did not dare to provoke him easily. This had nothing to do with the fourth-generation head of the Great Xia Mansion. The main reason was that he was the second master of the Great Xia Mansion's weapon forging department. If you wanted to forge a weapon, you might be able to beg him for help. Zhao Li was at the 7th level of Ling Yun. There were many powerhouses with this strength in the school. However, there was not a single person with a higher status than him. If Su Yu were to put on a research expert's coat in terms of blood essence, then even if the academy couldn't survive, there would be people in the Great Xia Mansion and even the entire human realm who would be willing to recruit and nurture him. The current Su Yu was already thinking about these possibilities. On the side of the Great Xia Civilization Academy, there was a lot of competition. Moreover, in Su Yu's opinion, the multi-divine literature department was really a little weak. He felt that he had been suppressed all this time. He was a genius. It was useless if he didn't fly. However, if he was a research-type genius, his value would surpass that of flying. Also, my previous God text element can change the blood essence and directly create an innate blood essence method. I can also give it a try. If one day the God text element finds fault with me, I can directly create an innate blood essence on the spot. It will only be fun if I slap their faces. Su Yu, don't lie. Su Yu was delighted. If such a day ever came, it would be fun. Everyone thought that it was fake, but I actually created the innate blood essence. Are you guys shocked? Teacher and the others all thought that it was fake, but I actually succeeded. Are you guys dumbstruck? At that time, countless people would have their jaws dropped in shock. This method was actually real. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 604, The Opening of the Drama. Please subscribe to the Big Chapter 1. Chapter 604, Chapter 161, The Opening of the Drama. Please subscribe to the Big Chapter 1. October 6th. The Academy was once again in the limelight. Early in the morning, the news was all over the place. Have you heard? Su Yu came out of seclusion today and is going to accept the challenge. Do you know who is going to challenge him? Su Yu is not weak. Look at Huang Qifeng's fate. He is in the second stage of the Stone Realm and is at the peak of the Recuperation Realm. He has been beaten to such a state. Who would dare to challenge him? That's right. Do you want to die? Su Yu isn't a pushover. Anyone can easily defeat him. The group of people discussed in hushed tones. Su Yu wasn't a weakling. Huang Qifeng was considered strong, right? What was the result? He was still unconscious and his willpower had recovered. He wouldn't stand a chance for a few months. Huang Qifeng's true strength should be at the 4th stage to the 5th stage of the 10,000 Stones realm. After being beaten to such a state by Su Yu, anyone below the top 50 of the top 100 would probably end up the same. Those who were truly confident of defeating Su Yu were probably those students who were ranked in the top 30. The students who were ranked in the top 30 were almost all at the later stage of the 10,000 Stones realm. Of course, it was hard to say if they were cultivating their character. If they were to encounter divine runes that targeted you, the other party might be weaker than you, but they would also be able to defeat you. The list of the top 100 of the Civilized Academy was not as straightforward as Zhanjiang College. Some people were restrained by divine runes, some were related to divine runes, and some were even related to beast taming. This was something that was hard to say. Everyone was discussing in low voices. Wu Lan was dejected as she followed behind her sister. Her face was dejected, and her pride was no longer the same as before. You've been dealt a blow? Wu Qi chuckled. When the surrounding students saw her, they hurriedly greeted her and left in a hurry. The great devil Wu Qi. They would talk about it when they were far away. Wu Lan said dejectedly, "No, sister, I'm just curious. Why would I draw such a stupid divine rune?" Stupid? Wu Qi said with a faint smile, "It would be stupid if you really drew the word stupid. Isn't that stupid?" Wu Lan was a little dejected. Why is it the word weak? I want the word strong. She was too ashamed to face anyone. What divine text wasn't easy to draw? Drawing such a divine text was too embarrassing. Wu Qi was tired and said calmly, "What's its characteristic?" It weakens others. Is that stupid? Isn't it stupid? Wu Lan said unhappily, "I don't want to weaken others. If that happens, others will be trash. I want others to be very strong, and then I'll be even stronger." Wu Qi didn't want to talk to her anymore. She was afraid that she would be angered to death. The word weak in the divine text wasn't that you were weak. It was to weaken the opponent's divine text and weaken the opponent's strength. Did you think that wasn't good? You might as well stop outlining the divine text. Wu Qi could not be bothered with her. She walked towards the top 100 building. There would be another show to watch today. Su Yu was the turning point in the battle between the single divine text and the multiple divine texts. He made the battle white-hot and public. There were probably quite a number of researchers who came to watch the show today. Bai Feng had injured Hu Wensheng, Huang Qifeng had injured Wuxia, and Su Yu had injured Huang Qifeng. The battle between the two sides was becoming more and more intense. If not for the limitations of the rules and the fact that Bai Feng and Qin Yong had not appeared, it was likely that the battle would have escalated to the point of soaring into the sky. From the looks of it, it seemed that there was no hope for the polytheistic school. Hong Tan was not in the academy, so how could he hope for Su Yu to turn the tides? The polytheistic school had only relied on the rules of the academy to avoid some of the blows. Top 100 building. There were indeed many people watching the show. Or rather, there were many students and teachers. Some instructors, researchers, and old students rushed over one after another. After the third, Suyu never showed up. Only today did the news spread that Suyu would face those students who challenged him. It was unknown if the third scene would happen today. As the crowd gathered, many people suddenly shouted in a low voice, "Zhan Hai is here. The number one person in the sky, Zhan Hai." His arrival surprised many students. The teachers were here to watch the show. Zhan Hai was probably here to judge Suyu's strength. This meant that Suyu had already attracted Zhan Hai's attention. Jiang Mu is here. There are so many people here. More than half of the top 100 students are here. Look, isn't that Li Mingyu? The atmosphere became even more heated when the top 100 students arrived one after another. Quite a few of the top 10 students had arrived this time. These people were usually so elusive that it was harder to see them than those researchers. However, at this moment, a large group of them had arrived. At the periphery of the crowd, Wuxia came along with Chen Yong and looked around. He said worriedly, "Teacher, is junior brother really coming? I heard that there are students who are ranked at the top this time. They shamelessly lowered their ranking and are prepared to fight with junior brother. The academy doesn't even care about this. The loophole is too big." Chen Yong said helplessly, "How do we manage this? It's the first time in so many years that a student wants to lower his ranking. We can't control it either." The top 100 ranking was to compete for strength. It was not to weaken himself. However, it was also a coincidence this time. Suyu's ranking made many people not qualified to challenge him. They could only lower their ranking. Then can junior brother win? I don't know. Chen Yong was speechless. How would I know? He came here because that kid, Suyu, informed him to come. Thinking of what that kid had said to him last night, Chen Yong felt very helpless. If he did this, in the eyes of others, he would really become a sinister person, but I'm really an honest person. How many years has it been? I've been holed up in the book collection pavilion. This kid, Suyu, is really going to ruin my reputation. Just as he was thinking, a commotion broke out in the crowd, and a path opened up. So handsome. Many girls suddenly exclaimed in low voices. Behind the crowd, Suyu was still wearing his snow-white clothes. He had a gentle smile on his face as he nodded his head in gratitude to the students who had made way for him. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 605, The Opening of the Drama. Please subscribe to the big chapter, 2. Chapter 605, Chapter 161, The Opening of the Drama. Please subscribe to the big chapter, 2. After staying up late for a few days, his face was slightly pale. However, the feeling he gave off was more comfortable, and he had the air of a scholar. Scholarly. This was a civilized master. Thank you. Suyu thanked a girl who made way for him and walked forward step by step. He was neither servile nor overbearing, and he was calm and composed. He walked straight up to the top 100 arena. Suyu stepped onto the stage and looked at the crowd below. He smiled and said, "I'm sorry. I just entered the top 100 and didn't know the rules. I happened to be doing research with my teacher in the laboratory these few days, so I didn't have time to care about anything else. I only found out that a senior wanted to challenge me after I left the laboratory last night. According to the Academy's rules, I should have accepted the challenge." Suyu apologized. "Before accepting the challenge, I have something to say. This is a grudge between me and some people. The others are just doing it for the sake of benefits, so there's no need to hurt the harmony. I have no objections to a proper challenge and sparring." After saying that, he continued, but if some people don't follow the rules and want to take the opportunity to sell themselves to some people and use me, Su Yu, as a pledge of allegiance. I'm sorry, I won't show mercy to my enemies. Everyone, think carefully before deciding whether to go on stage. There was silence below the stage. In the next moment, someone shouted, "Well said. Junior Su Yu, do your best, let them see how powerful you are." Only those female students could shout like this. She wasn't young anymore and wasn't doing well either. In fact, she didn't really care if the others were hostile towards her. Not many people echoed. Here, after all, the single divine text department was still respected. There were many experts. If she spoke now, it would be easy to offend others. Moreover, many of the top 100 students were also present. These people were all thinking of taking benefits. The referee was still the same person from last time, Zhao Ming. But today, there were two referees. The other one was the young man who had advised them last time. Su Yu was not familiar with him, and he had forgotten to ask Qin Yong the last time. He felt that he was still somewhat kind to him. Zhao Ming looked at Su Yu and said with a smile, "Su Yu, there are quite a number of people challenging you. Pick one, pick one." Su Yu smiled and said, "Teacher, will I get 10 merit points if I win?" "Of course." "Teacher, are there any people who challenged me who were ranked between 30 to 70 before?" "Let me see." Zhao Ming casually picked up the little jade talisman in his hand, took a look, and said with a smile, "Yes, there's more than one, there are a total of 3 people. Wang He, previously ranked 38th, dropped to 75th in these 2 days. Hu Yu, his previous rank was 44th, but now he's dropped to 77th. Huang Yun, his previous rank was 48th, but now he's dropped to 81st. All 3 of them were in the top 50. But they had dropped their ranks in the past 2 days, and their motive was very obvious. Below the stage, a wave of soft boos sounded. In the crowd, a few people had strange expressions, but they didn't say anything. It was the will of the peak of the mountain and sea realm. Since the others couldn't bear to lose face, they would give it a try first. Those ranked below 50 didn't lose their rankings, so it was meaningless. They might not necessarily be Su Yu's match. Those ranked in the top 50 were all somewhat confident. Between 30 to 50, under normal circumstances, it wouldn't be a big problem for them to fight against a level 5 or 6 Wancher. As for Su Yu, when he defeated Huang Qifeng previously, the battle prowess he displayed was probably around the 5th level of 10,000 stones. His speed was too fast, and in fact, Huang Qifeng didn't display his full strength either. Su Yu didn't stand on ceremony either, he said indifferently, "Then when we go up to the arena, the victor will definitely be determined. Since these few people are so interested in me, let me get straight to the point. If you can't beat me, then I'll admit defeat. Otherwise, I won't stand on ceremony. They've already bullied me, so I can't really be at the mercy of others." Zhao Ming chuckled and said, "I don't care about that. Su Yu, which one do you want to choose?" "Wang He." Su Yu didn't stand on ceremony and said indifferently, "You're ranked 38th, right? I also want to see how strong a senior with such a ranking is." Of course, he was currently ranked 75th. Below the stage, a young man, also dressed in white, laughed when he heard this and jumped up. He went up the stage and said, "Junior brother Su Yu, don't say that I'm bullying you. If it were you, would you take a will of the peak of the mountain and see if I placed it in front of you?" Su Yu nodded slightly and smiled. "Yes. Of course, there's no point in talking about this. Since you want to take it, then bring out your ability. Since you're on the stage, then let's rely on your ability. According to the rules, the winner is king." "Well said." Wang He smiled and said, "I have no enmity with junior brother, so let's have a spar. I've seen your fight with Huang Qifeng. Junior brother's strength is extremely strong. Raise Su Yu by 1 level. This way, it wouldn't be embarrassing. Su Yu couldn't be bothered to say anything more. It was fine if they didn't lower their rankings, but for those who lowered their rankings to challenge him, this kind of person's intention was too obvious. Zhao Ming did not hesitate either. When the two of them were in position, he quickly said, "Begin." This time, Su Yu did not hide anything. The Wenbing appeared directly, and 5 divine runes entered the Wenbing. All 153 apertures were opened, and the apertures rapidly absorbed yuan qi from all directions. Saber thrust out. Leg thrust out. Its speed was astonishingly fast. Whine. The sound of air being torn apart could be heard. Wang He was not a weakling since he was ranked 38th. His physical body realm was at the 4th level of the myriad stones realm, and his recuperation had reached its peak. His apertures also opened one after another, and a long sword made of literature and weapons appeared. An illusion appeared. A shadow appeared. A thunderbolt exploded. Su Yu's several divine runes characteristics erupted one after another. At this moment, Wang He didn't hesitate at all. His willpower erupted, and the divine runes exploded, causing the void to turn red. Flames spread throughout the entire area. Flaming divine runes. The illusion was on the verge of collapsing, and the thunderbolts were also quickly extinguished. The killing intent was burned, and his battle intent was diluted. Bang! Su Yu's leg whipped out. Wang He's afterimage shattered, but it had already disappeared in place. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 606, Drama Opening, Dazhang Subscription 3. Chapter 606, Chapter 161 Drama Opening, Dazhang Subscription, Speed Type Divine Text. At this moment, someone below the stage said. Wang He had grasped more than one divine text. His speed was extremely fast. Even though he was not as fast as Su Yu, because he was prepared, he instantly dodged this kick. Su Yu's kick caused the air to explode and yuan qi to explode. And at this moment, a thin sword fell from the sky. Wang He stepped through the air and stabbed down with his sword. A direct hit to Bai Hui. Before the sword arrived, a powerful willpower had already surged over. Waves of coldness came from Su Yu's Bai Hui acupoint. Aperture breach. Shattering yuan. Quick. He was fast, but Su Yu was even faster. He turned sideways, stepped on the ground, and rose into the air. His leg kicked out. Bang bang bang. Wang He retaliated with punches and kicks, producing incessant banging sounds. The two literary soldiers collided in the air. Su Yu's kicks were one after another, borrowing the force of the collision to fly through the air. His legs took turns to kick out, and rumbling sounds rang out incessantly, causing Wang He to be kicked back continuously. Originally, it wouldn't have gone as far as this, but every kick Su Yu sent out gave him a feeling of falling from the void. He couldn't avoid it. Below the stage, the group of researchers were also somewhat dazzled by what they saw. This was an extremely brilliant martial technique. Heaven rank martial technique. Many people could tell that this was definitely a heaven rank martial technique. Wang He was not weak at the 4th stage of the myriad stone realm. Furthermore, it was a genuine myriad stone realm martial technique. It combined 10 apertures into one. Although it was not comparable to a true top-notch fighter with 12 apertures, it was still considered an expert among civilized masters. Otherwise, he would not have been able to kill 38 people previously. However, he did not have as many apertures as Su Yu, his yuan qi was not as pure as Su Yu's, and his martial technique was not as powerful as Su Yu's. At this moment, Wang He did not gain the slightest advantage in the physical battle between the two parties. The two parties exchanged blows one after another as fists and feet constantly clashed. Cracks rapidly appeared on Wang He's hands as blood flowed out. And at that moment, Wang He sensed that something was amiss. The speed of the blood flow was extremely fast, astonishingly fast. It was originally just a small wound, so it did not have much of an effect on him. However, at that moment, the blood flow did not stop. It instantly made him feel a little weak. Damn it! Wang He was alarmed. Other than the blood-sucking characteristic that Su Yu had displayed during his exchange with Jing Yunhui, he had not shown it at any other time. Few people knew that his divine runes could still suck blood. Furthermore, it was a Tier 2 divine rune. At that moment, the blood-sucking speed was shockingly fast. Wang He felt waves of weakness, while Su Yu was getting stronger as he fought. The 153 apertures were extracting the surrounding Yuan Qi, and Wang He could not even keep up with his recovery speed. With a bang, Wang He was sent flying. With a roll, he quickly got up. He took the opportunity to get rid of Su Yu's martial technique entanglement. A drop of Yuan Qi liquid was quickly swallowed by him. The wounds on his hands also began to heal, and the bleeding speed decreased. Wang He's face turned pale. He looked at Su Yu, who had fallen to the ground, and frowned. At that moment his white clothes were already covered in dust. As for Su Yu, other than the sweat on his forehead, his white clothes were still as white as snow. Wang He was on high alert. As expected, he was hard to deal with. No wonder Shan Shenwen had offered such a price. He originally thought that no matter how strong Su Yu was, he wouldn't be a match for him in a fight with his real body. Now, he realized that although this guy looked like Qian Jun, in reality, he wasn't weaker than any 10,000 stones. Even in Zhanjiang College, there was probably not a single person who was stronger than Su Yu in Qianjun realm. He was talking about his physical body. Below the stage, the students were also surprised and shocked. Everyone knew that Su Yu was very strong when he defeated Huang Qifeng. However, at this moment, he could even suppress Wang He, who was ranked 38th. This was out of many people's expectations. Soon, a researcher said strangely, his willpower is even stronger than the last time. I'm afraid that he has 70% of his full strength now. Moreover, his willpower is even tougher than Wang He's. Both sides' literary soldiers had been fighting all this time, but Su Yu was not at a disadvantage at all. Moreover, he could even make the blood divine inscription take time to suck blood. This guy's full capacity of willpower could not be equated with his strength. Moreover, his improvement was also very fast. In the blink of an eye, he had already reached 70% full capacity. They were surprised, and a few people in the crowd were even more surprised. Lu Hong, Wu Qi, and the others had all seen Su Yu before. During the divine inscription competition, his full capacity was less than 60%. In the blink of an eye, he had already reached 70%. This fellow's improvement was too fast. In the corner, Zhao Li was watching the show with his arms crossed. The weapon forging expert who was in charge of the divine literature competition stood to the side and whispered, "Teacher, did you really teach him the God-expanding technique? It's none of your business." The middle-aged man was helpless and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He said, "Teacher, you're not going to take him in as your disciple, right? He's someone from the multiple divine literature department." "It's none of my business." The middle-aged man became even more helpless. He said in a low voice, "Teacher, be careful not to be hated by others. Many people are saying that Su Yu has learned your spirit-expanding technique." Zhao Li's temper was fine in front of Su Yu, but in front of others, he had a really bad temper. Suddenly, he scolded, "So what if he learned it? What do you think? Let Zhou Mingren come to me and you let him try. F***ck, I don't care about shit, why do you care about me? I beat up my civil servants, who dares to care about me? At worst, I'll bring my family's belongings to the Xia family to be a guest elder, the Xia family will take care of me, and I'll go to Daming Manor and the Zhu family. If I can't go to the Great Zhou Manor, who the F*ck can take care of me? After scolding a few times, Zhao Li did not care about the looks of the others. He said disdainfully, I don't owe the academy. All these years' worth of clothes, food, and drinks were earned by me. I earned them with my own ability. So what if I passed on the divine amplification technique? If you want to pass it on, then pass it on. F*ck, you're going to take care of me. As he said this, old Zhao pointed his middle finger in the direction of the Heart Cultivation Pavilion and cursed, F*ck, I was angered and left. F*ck, return the Yuan Qi mystic realm to me. If you don't return it, I'll bring Invincible here to take it. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 607, The Opening of the Drama, Large Chapter Requesting Subscription, 4. Chapter 607, Chapter 161, The Opening of the Drama, Large Chapter Requesting Subscription, 4. Silence. The nearby experts of the Single Divine One department all avoided him. The neutral department expert said, Elder Zhao, calm down. No one said that you weren't. Don't bother with those people. Zhao Li harumphed and ignored them. I'll do whatever I want. Is it your turn to care? I don't owe you a cent. His student also had an embarrassed look and did not dare to speak anymore. The Divine Runes faculty did not make a sound. He was just a little worried that his teacher would be dragged into it. In the end, forget it. The middle-aged man shook his head. Whatever. In any case, his teacher could come and go as he pleased. He could eat wherever he wanted, so there was nothing to worry about. Forget about weapon forging master. The Yuan Qi mystic realm belonged to his teacher. Even if he could not take it away now, if he really brought Invincible here to take it, even the great Xia Emperor had nothing to say. How could he stop the son of the fourth-generation manor head from taking back what belonged to his family? The Yuan Qi mystic realm was a good thing. Many large manors wanted it. Su Yu's progress was rapid. Other than the picture book, it was also because of the Yuan Qi mystic realm. The battle on the stage was still ongoing. Few people knew of old Zhao's display of power. Heart Cultivation Pavilion. The meeting was about to begin. Before the meeting began, there were a few people who were spying on the situation over there. There were also people who heard Zhao Li's words and saw his actions. Many people looked at Zhou Mingren. Zhou Mingren frowned slightly and said, who Zhao Li passes on to is his business. It has nothing to do with me. That old fellow did not need to provoke him. Even if Su Yu had learned the God-expanding technique, he did not plan to use it to make a fuss. It was purely old Zhao's disciple who was overthinking things. In the meeting room, an old man also opened his mouth and said, on Zhao Li's side, don't drag him into it for no reason. I don't care how you all fight. If Zhao Li is dragged into it, the 4 generations of lingering shadows will still be there. Think about the consequences yourself. No one said anything. The old man said again, the multi-divine literature department has declined, but the 4th generation department hasn't. The head of the Great Zhou Manor's Weapon Forging Academy is a 4th generation student. Zhao Li is just too lazy to leave his homeland. If you really force him away, I'm telling you, you'll have to bear the consequences. Silence continued. The 4th generation head also had a student. He was still alive and was of the same generation as the myriad heaven sage and the 5th generation head. However, the Great Xia Manor's weapon forging department couldn't do it. The other party had already gone to the Great Zhou Manor decades ago and had now become the head of the academy. Zhou Mingren had a slight headache. After a long while, he said, no one is fighting with Zhao Li, old Qi, don't say these useless things. Who was fighting with Zhao Li? This wretched old man was cursing himself. Who had provoked him? The old man who was called Old Qi snorted and said, then let's not talk about these things. Today, I have asked the head prefect to hold this meeting. It has something to do with the curse of the divine runes. As he spoke, he shouted, "Enough, a student competition is enough to distract all of you. Can't you tell the severity of the situation? All of you, take back your willpower and continue to be distracted. If the meeting doesn't start, don't call me when there's a meeting in the future." The pavilion elders were a little embarrassed, and they took back their willpower. Weren't they a little curious? Old Qi was even throwing a tantrum. In the center of the stage, Wan Tianxing didn't say a word. He wasn't the one who called today's meeting, so he couldn't be bothered with it. He just had to listen. Old Qi said that he had discovered the divine curse. Let's wait and see. If he hadn't discovered anything, what could Old Qi have discovered? But it was hard to say. After all, they had been in the mountains and seas for many years. Perhaps he had really discovered something. In the next moment, Wan Tianxing couldn't be bothered with the other side's matters. Just listen, lest Old Qi get angry. It was all the mountains and seas, and it wouldn't be good to anger Old Qi. On the stage, Su Yu and Wang He fought for another 3 to 4 minutes. Wang He was getting weaker and weaker as the battle went on. His wounds were bleeding non-stop, and Su Yu was panting heavily. His face was slightly pale, and he was sweating profusely. Right at this moment, there was a cracking sound. The battle between the civil servants and soldiers had come to an end. The long sword broke. With a pu sound, a mouthful of blood spurted out of Wang He's mouth. Su Yu wouldn't show mercy. He had been waiting for this moment. With a move of his feet, he instantly appeared in front of Wang He. Wang He was shocked, but his willpower was affected by the backlash from the shattering of the Wenbing. He panicked and thought of Huang Qifeng's fate. There was no time for him to admit defeat. Su Yu raised his knee high and pushed it out, hitting his chest. Crack! The sound of bones cracking rang out. With a bang, Wang He fell to the ground and fell off the stage. Blood flowed out of his mouth crazily. Su Yu's expression was calm as he lightly exhaled. He withdrew his literary weapon. At this moment, the literary weapon had shattered a literary weapon's long sword, and his killing intent became even more intense. The word kill in the divine script lay in killing. Shattering a literary weapon was also killing. At this moment, the literary weapon's small knife became even colder. Below the stage, many people's expressions changed. The literary weapon had been shattered. Wang He had suffered a great loss this time, and his willpower had also been damaged. It wasn't as serious as Huang Qifeng, but without a month's worth of recuperation, he could forget about recovering. Half-mystic weapon. Some people sighed with admiration. The last time Su Yu and Huang Qifeng fought, they had also shattered the other party's literary soldier. Back then, it had been too fast, and no one had noticed it. Today, they had completely seen through it. This wasn't a yellow-grade literary soldier, but a half-mystic weapon that was about to advance. Many people looked at Zhao Li over there. There was no need to ask. Such a powerful literary soldier was 100% personally forged by Zhao Li. As expected, Zhao Li had truly come to teach Su Yu as his direct disciple. Wang He was seriously injured. This time, the expressions of the others also changed. The other 2 students who had fallen from their rankings had ugly expressions. Wang He had actually lost. Not only had he lost, but the literary soldier had been shattered and his willpower had been damaged. This was probably comparable to the loss of a book of will. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 608, Drama Opening, Dazhang Subscription 5. Chapter 608, Chapter 161 Drama Opening, Dazhang Subscription 5. Not only did he not gain any advantage, he even suffered a huge loss. The literary soldiers that he had been nurturing for several years were shattered just like that. He had to buy and nurture them again. He was afraid that he would have to delay the time needed for him to advance to the next rank. He would also have to delay quite a bit of time. Su Yu panted for a while and said again, "There's no need to look at me like that. I've said it before. I won't offend anyone unless they offend me. Since you're going to lower your ranking to deal with me, I won't be polite either." No one made a sound. Zhao Ming smiled and said, "Su Yu wins. Why don't you rest for a while and continue?" Su Yu nodded slightly. Someone suddenly said from below the stage, "Su Yu, do you only dare to accept challenges from students after 30? Su Yu looked at the person who spoke. Zhao Ming explained cheerfully, "Didn't you ask who was ranked lower from 30 to 50? This isn't him. His name is Zhai Feng." Su Yu said plainly, "I know. Zhai Feng is ranked 9th. He is the disciple of Deputy Director Zhou Pingsheng, right?" Below the stage, Zhai Feng said calmly, "He is now ranked 72nd. According to the rules, he can challenge you, but you can't refuse him unless you admit defeat." Su Yu smiled and said, "I have a challenge with me. According to the rules, I can pick and choose. Moreover, according to the rules, I can refuse the challenge after 3 rounds in a day. Do you have any objections?" Zhai Feng looked at him and said plainly, "Are you afraid? Are you trying to provoke me?" Su Yu laughed and said, "You have been cultivating for longer than Huang Qifeng. Is it meaningful for you to provoke me, a student who has been in school for 2 months?" Zhai Feng did not say anything. These words were empty words. If Su Yu did not accept his challenge, what could he do? "Unless you fight 3 rounds a day, if you don't accept my challenge before the 25th, you will lose." Su Yu could not be bothered with him. He looked at Xia Huyo below. Xia Huyo nodded indiscernibly. "Done. No problem." Su Yu smiled faintly and could not be bothered with Zhai Feng. Suddenly, he said, "Huyu, Huang Yun, do you still want to challenge me? Admit defeat. I will collect 10 merit points to finish it. Otherwise, unless you think you are stronger than Wang He, you will be the ones who will be seriously injured later." Below the stage, a man and a woman had gloomy expressions. Admit defeat? Admit defeat before even fighting? But when they thought of Wang He's defeat and Su Yu's extremely fast kicking speed, they might not have the confidence to escape unscathed. The two did not say a word. Su Yu was not in a hurry either. He recovered his yuan qi for a while and swallowed a few drops of yuan qi liquid. After about half an hour, Su Yu said indifferently, "Then continue. Hu Yu, come up." Hu Yu was previously ranked 44th. At this moment it was somewhat difficult to get off the tiger. "Go up the stage." After some thought, he exhaled. He had to go up. Even if he lost, he could at most admit defeat on the stage. If he did not go up, he would admit defeat. He could not afford to lose face. The gap between him and Wang He was not too big. He might have a chance to win. The battle erupted once again. And this time, Su Yu had completely changed his fighting style. Fierce. Truly fierce. Just like that day when he dealt with Huang Qifeng, Su Yu didn't even bring out his soldiers. His willpower was firmly guarding his sea of consciousness. Once the battle erupted, he opened all his apertures and charged forward. Fast. His speed was fast, his moves were fast, and his fighting style was incomparably fierce. At this moment, no one thought that he was a civilized master. He was a thug of Zhanjiang College. In less than a minute, many people cried out in surprise. Su Yu allowed a small knife to pierce through his shoulder blade. His right hand grabbed Hu Yu. Before he shouted out his surrender, Su Yu lashed out with his leg. With a boom, this leg broke more than 10 of Hu Yu's ribs. Blood flowed down from Su Yu's shoulder and dyed his clothes red. As if he did not know pain, Su Yu allowed the small knife to turn around and once again left a wound on his back. He stomped down. With a crack, he broke many of Hu Yu's sternum. With a kick, Hu Yu fell off the stage like a piece of junk. Su Yu casually grabbed the knife that belonged to Hu Yu. He smiled and casually threw it to Hu Yu's side. Then, he moved his shoulder a little, he smiled faintly and said, "The sparring in the academy is too gentle. You should have directly cut off my arm and pierced through it. You underestimate me, Su Yu." No one made a sound. Some of the female students couldn't bear it. They had always felt that Su Yu was gentle, but today, they had once again witnessed his ferocity and viciousness. It was the same when he dealt with Huang Qifeng last time, and it was the same today. Not only was he ruthless to his enemies, Su Yu was also ruthless to himself. Some of the top 100 students' expressions became completely solemn. They had always felt that Su Yu didn't have much experience and had become stronger too quickly. However, at this moment, Su Yu was telling them that even if they were to compete in viciousness, they weren't a match for him. Only those who had endured the pain of having their shoulder blades pierced through would know how painful it was. However, Su Yu seemed to be fine. Below the stage, Zheng Yunhui curled his lips. A bunch of idiots. Su Yu was not an inexperienced newbie. This fellow had killed quite a number of people. Last time, he had checked Su Yu's information. Even if some of the information was confidential, he knew the situation. This fellow had not even died yet. He had already killed many people from the 10,000 clans. A desperado. Who said that Su Yu was a scholarly scholar? He would beat that guy to death first. Huang Yun, do you admit defeat? Su Yu looked at the girl below the stage and smiled. Today's 3 matches. You're the last one. Do you admit defeat? Huang Yun's face was stiff. She still did not say anything. Then wait for me for half an hour. Su Yu smiled. However, his smile at this moment was a little cold and stern in Huang Yun's eyes. Clearly, Su Yu had been completely enraged. The opponents' outcomes were each more miserable than the last. Huang Yun felt the pressure and also felt the danger. After a long while, she gritted her teeth and said, "I admit defeat." You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 609, Opening of the Drama, Dazhang Subscription 6. Chapter 609, Chapter 161 Opening of the Drama, Dazhang Subscription 6. She did not have the confidence to fight against Su Yu. She was afraid that she would follow in the same footsteps and be severely injured by Su Yu. That would not be worth it. Even if Su Yu was already injured. Thank you, senior sister. Thank you for letting me win. Su Yu was indifferent. A girl? If a girl wanted to take advantage of him, he would have to beat her until she could not get out of bed. At this time, he would not care about that. The effect of establishing prestige was obviously achieved. It was not bad. Some of the students looked at him with some fear. This was not what Su Yu wanted. I am a good person, an honest person, and a friend of everyone. Don't look at me like that. Once prestige was established, it was time to seek benefits for everyone. In the next moment, Su Yu revealed a smile and suddenly said, I know everyone's goal. Isn't it just for the article of will? If you guys were nice, I, Su Yu, would not be a difficult person to talk to. You guys just had to lower your ranking to go against me. This kind of person is disgusting. Teacher Zhao, anyone who challenges me will not be accepted. I have already fought all 3 battles. Now, I want to start the battle of the non-top 100. Below, some people's hearts trembled slightly. What did he mean? Su Yu said loudly, article of will. Everyone doesn't have it. It doesn't matter. After today, everyone will have a copy. I, Su Yu, am willing to spar with all the non-skyscraping students. I'll give you some merit points as payment for your hard work. I'll spar with everyone until the end. You will definitely win. Of course. As for whether or not you can get it. Sorry, I won't make any promises. I think that a mountain sea realm wouldn't be so shameless. In the end, there are still people who can get it. Suyu laughed and said, the top 100 students are not allowed to challenge you. It's fine. From today onwards, I'm not. Later, I'll trouble Senior Lin Qing, who is ranked 100th, to challenge me. After that, all the students can challenge me. The moment these words were said, the crowd was in an uproar. At this moment, Chen Yong's willpower suddenly exploded. He shouted, quiet. Line up. One by one, register according to the order. Hand in 1 merit point in exchange for a paper of will. Whether or not you can get it, there's no promise. This is not what we promised. Jia Jia, charge. Chen Yong looked at Wuxia, who was still a little dazed. He shouted, what are you waiting for? For the others, there was still a chance to register. The probability of getting it was very high. Those who could not get the Shanghai realm would get more than 100 merit points from any book. With so many people, who would they be afraid of? If you don't give it, I'll see you in the strong nurturing department. At this moment, the students were all in a daze. At this moment, the expressions of the experts from the Divine Literature department changed one after another. Chen Yong, you guys. Chen Yong's willpower exploded as he said coldly, why, do you guys have any objections? If you do, then hold it in. This isn't us looking for trouble. I hope that you guys can fulfill the promise you made. Otherwise, just make a big fuss. After he finished speaking, someone suddenly rushed over from the other side and said loudly, I'll sign up. Will 1 merit point be enough? Suyu will definitely admit defeat. Definitely. On the stage, Suyu smiled and said, I like to see some people go bankrupt. I hope that everyone will sign up enthusiastically. Once these words were said, this person didn't waste any more words and hurriedly said, I didn't make it into the top 100. Logically speaking, our challenge doesn't count. That person didn't say that he must publicly challenge me, but in order to prevent him from reneging on his promise, then wait a moment. Wait until I fall off the top 100 list before coming back. The students behind me in the top 100 are qualified to challenge me. Is anyone willing to go up on stage? At this moment, some of the top 100 students looked at each other in dismay. In the crowd, Zhang Hao pushed a person beside him. This person looked at Zhang Hao and said in a low voice, Ah Hao, this will offend. The Divine Talisman faculty is afraid of this? Senior brother, does teacher want you to be afraid of the single Divine Script faculty? The moment these words were said, this person's expression changed slightly. Without wasting any more words, he instantly leaped up and said, ranked 88th in the top 100, Divine Talisman Academy's Wang Qing Challenge. I admit defeat. Suyu was so straightforward. Just as these words left his mouth, Zheng Yunhui roared, you've fallen to 88th. I can challenge you. Count me in. Suyu, quickly admit defeat. Suyu burst into laughter and said, admit defeat. Ha ha ha, I'm ranked 88th. On the other side, Wang Qing was still in a daze. Am I ranked 71st? I didn't even fight. I've risen 17th already. The moment Zheng Yunhui opened his mouth, Wu Lan hurriedly nudged Lin Qing. Lin Qing's face was blank as he looked at his teacher. Wu Qi revealed a playful smile and nodded slightly. Lin Qing hurriedly said, ranked 100th in the top 100, Lin Qing challenges junior brother Suyu. I admit defeat. Lin Qing was also in a daze. I'm ranked 91st, rising so quickly. Is there anything else? I'm already ranked 100th. Any random person who challenges me will make me fall off the list. As he said this, Suyu looked at the person who had just registered and smiled. This senior is the one. You're now ranked 100th in the top 100. I admit defeat. The entire crowd was speechless. In the next moment, the students looked at each other, each of them a little excited. Should they go up? Perhaps they wouldn't be able to get it, but what if they did? At this moment, the expressions of the experts from the single Divine One department changed, and they hurriedly walked towards the heart cultivation pavilion area. This was troublesome. At this moment, a smile appeared on Xia Huyo's face. In the next second, many people in the crowd suddenly shouted, "Weapon Forging Academy's Lu Bo Challenge. Admit defeat, remember to hand over 1 merit point." Su Yu replied with a smile. Divine Pill Academy's Wang Hao Challenge. Admit defeat. Admit defeat. The continuous sounds of admitting defeat rang out. At this moment, the entire academy was in an uproar. Wuxia began to collect fees with a dumbfounded expression. How could this be? Wasn't his junior brother fighting? It wasn't easy for him to win, but how did it suddenly become like this? Junior brother, dropped out of the top 100. And he was collecting money here. 1 point, 2 points. More and more people came to pay the money. The law didn't punish the masses. At first, many people were afraid, but gradually, as more and more people joined, the students were so excited that their faces were red. What was there to be afraid of? What was there to be afraid of? At most, Zhou Manorhead would go back on his word. The cost wasn't big, so everyone hesitated at 10 points. 1 point, it was gone. If they really had to pay, it would be a book of the will of the Shanghai realm. For such a grand event, how could they not participate in it? Wu Jia was already stunned. He glanced at his merit card, and the number on it had already reached over 1,000 points. Wu Jia was on the verge of tears. I've never seen so much money, and today, I actually saw more than 1,000 merit points. So many people gave me money. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 610, Rules Are a Good Thing 1. Chapter 610, Chapter 162 Rules Are a Good Thing 1. In the arena. Su Yu called out to admit defeat. He was already numb from shouting. There were too many. Sigh, it's a pity that no one sent me a cup of tea at this moment. Admit defeat. Su Yu had just shouted when he suddenly looked at this fellow who had spoken. He hurriedly said, "Didn't you participate once just now?" Off stage, a little girl said timidly, "I didn't say that I wasn't allowed to win twice. I paid 3 merit points. There will be another one later." "You're Xia Huyo's younger sister, right?" "Definitely. Stop pretending." Su Yu had no choice but to remind her, 1 is enough. If you can't get 1, don't count on 2. 1 merit point to bet on someone's shamelessness. "Classmate, don't waste too much." The little girl timidly said, "I know, thank you for your reminder, classmate Su Yu. I'm not afraid, I'll get it back. My father is the director of the Department of Strengthening Education. If you don't give it to me, I'll ask my father to revoke his title as a senior researcher." Su Yu was stunned. Damn. The director of the Department of Strengthening Education was considered a big shot. The title of a researcher of the institute indeed required the approval of the Department of Strengthening Education. Zhou Mingren. Should I give it to her or not? If you don't, her father might really disqualify you. Of course, under normal circumstances, there was no need to offend Shanghai, but it wasn't just 1 or 2 people. The matter was so big, if Zhou Mingren didn't give an accurate answer, he might really be at a disadvantage. Su Yu was speechless and didn't try to persuade him. He thought for a while and said, "Why don't you give me 10 points?" The little girl looked at him and ignored him. She turned around and ran away, continuing to line up. She didn't want it. 3 times was enough. She just wanted 3 books. One was the Lart Art War God, one was Th Heaven a Breakraker, and one was El Book, 10,000 Scriptures. One couldn't be too greedy. At the periphery, some of the researchers who were watching the show were dumbfounded. This matter had really blown up, and it wasn't easy to solve. The daughter of the director of the Department of Strengthening Education, the grandson of the deputy commander of the Dragon Martial Guards, the grandson of the head of Zhanjiang College, the people of the Xia family, the children of the Demon Suppression Army's 1,000-man commander, the descendants of the 1,000-man commander, the descendants of the general. Forget about those who didn't have status and status. Those with status and status really didn't care much about Zhou Mingren. You agreed to it yourself. It's not like we forced you. Anyway, let's make a bet. With one merit point and a large number of people, Zhou Mingren would have to pay a little bit of blood, right? There would always be a group of people who could get something. Those without a backer, stand aside. Those with a backer, if you don't give it, sooner or later, I'll teach you a lesson. There were more and more people. When the students from other places heard the news, they also crowded over. Some experts from the single divine script department had no choice but to berate, spread out. Su Yu's method of surrendering is completely ineffective. On the stage, Su Yu said in a clear voice, "Is there any justice in the academy? I'm currently on the way to a sparring match, and I've soared into the air to threaten the sparring students. Is this what the academy said about not bullying the weak? I don't think many people still remember Elder Zheng's example. Does the rules set by Manor Head 1 still count? Researchers threatening students? How dare they? Is this Great Xia Manor still the Great Xia Manor of the Xia family?" A series of stern shouts rang out. Some of the researchers' expressions changed drastically. On the other side, Chen Yong shouted, "If a researcher interferes in a student's duel, he will be beheaded by all the members of the myriad clans. Where are the guards? Does the academy still have any rules?" As soon as he said this, a group of 100 guards rushed over from afar. The centurion leading them, Ling Yun's combat strength. At this moment, this centurion's expression was changing constantly. Chen Yong shouted coldly, "What are you looking at? Someone interfered in a student's duel just now. Can we just ignore it? Or are the guards going to rebel too?" The centurion's expression changed again as he shouted, "Arrest him. In the student duel, no one is allowed to interfere except for the referee. Arrest him. You dare. Kill." An assistant of the Soaring Realm was about to fly into a rage, but just as he was about to speak, he was struck in the chest by a knife. He spat out blood and flew backwards. On the side of the guards, there were people who quickly arrived. The expression of a 7th-level Ling Yun realm powerhouse changed again and again as he cursed in his heart. F***CK, in public, even if he wanted to side with you, he couldn't side with you. What was a guard? An existence that maintained order in the academy. An existence that protected the safety of the academy. They were under the leadership of the principal and the Xia family, and not under the command of anyone else in the academy. Once someone violated the order, they had the right to kill. You should just shut the F***CK up, and you still want to bicker. Interfering in a student competition, it wasn't a big deal if it was small, but if it was big, it was a capital offense. Don't you see who's speaking now? The curator of the library pavilion is considered a high-ranking member of the academy, and you still dare to defend yourself? The Lingyun realm researchers quickly shut their mouths, their faces ashen. We're in big trouble. They didn't think too much just now, but in the end, they were caught by Su Yu and the others in an instant. If they were really charged with violating the rules of the academy and bullying the students, even if they didn't die, they would still be punished to go to the celestial battlefield. Being punished was different from joining the army. They had to enter the vanguard camp. Arrest them. On the side of the guards, the Ling Yun realm commander shouted. The researchers who had shouted at the students earlier, be it in the air or Ling Yun, were instantly arrested. No one resisted. Even the researcher who had been sent flying was now awake. Elder Zhang's lesson was still there. It had only been a few days. In the blink of an eye, he had challenged the academy's rules. Did he really want to die? On the stage, Su Yu's expression was calm. Rules were meant to be used. The rules were meant to protect him. He had long thought that the guards would be the best way to deal with matters involving the divine runes alone. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 611, Rules Were a Good Thing Too. Chapter 611, Chapter 162's Rules Were a Good Thing Too. Because these were the rules. You can't get involved in a student's battle. You don't have the qualifications. The challenge continues. Su Yu said in a clear voice, "Everyone, while there's still time, hurry up. The rules are on our side. If someone doesn't admit to it, sue him. If it really doesn't work out, the academy will come forward and settle it. Perhaps they will give everyone some merits or enter the arcane realm for free, or watch the article of will for free. No matter what, they won't let the students return empty-handed." There are close to 100 researchers in the Divine Literature department. Even if each of them wrote a piece of the article of will in the sky, there would be at least 100. If they can't reach the mountains and seas, they can make do with the article of will in the sky. At the very least, let their department set up some open classes for free. For a class, they should at least get 5 merit points, right? This isn't difficult, right? No matter what, it won't be a loss. At this moment, someone said loudly, "We really can't exchange for the article of will. Give me this opportunity. Write me an IOU saying that you owe me a copy of the article of will. I'll buy it for everyone's merit points. How about it?" Many people looked at the person who spoke in surprise. He wasn't familiar. It wasn't Xia Huyo, but an unfamiliar student. However, this person did not mind and said loudly, "It's true, I'll pay for it. Don't be afraid that I'll go back on my words. My father is a 1,000-man captain of the Dragon Martial Guards." The moment these words were said, someone's expression changed. 1,000-man captain of the Dragon Martial Guards. This was not the Demon Suppression Army, but the personal guards of the Great Xia Manor. The weakest 1,000-man captain was at the 7th level of the Soaring Cloud Realm, and most of them were at the Soaring Cloud Realm. Although it was not the Mountain and Sea Realm, the other party was the personal guards. This time, many people thought of something, and the line in front of Wuxia became even larger. Su Yu also glanced at Xia Huyo. Seeing that Xia Huyo smiled and did not say anything, he cursed in his heart. This guy was really crafty. If he did not appear, someone else would. Obviously, Xia Huyo did not want the Xia family to directly go into the water. Instead, he found an intermediary. Even if the Xia family went to collect the debt, they would only say that it was someone else who paid the debt. Su Yu had already thought of a reason for them. The Xia family didn't directly come out because the Xia family was the Xia family of the Great Xia Manor. They couldn't be too biased towards anyone, as that would make the Xia family seem unfair. Su Yu felt somewhat regretful. He actually wanted the Xia family to directly come out. This way, everyone would understand that the Xia family supported the Multidivine Pros faction. From the looks of it, the Xia family wasn't a fool. They weren't willing to directly side with the Multidivine Pros faction at this moment. Admit defeat and continue. At this moment, in the Heart Cultivation Pavilion area, a few experts from the Single God Literature faction rushed over but were stopped. Outside the pavilion, a Lingyun expert said anxiously, "Is Dean Zhou around? Please tell Dean Zhou that something has happened." The expert who was guarding the Heart Cultivation Pavilion frowned slightly and said in a deep voice, "The elders have started a level 3 strategy meeting. Unless there is a life-threatening crisis in the academy, no one is allowed to disturb them. The researcher said anxiously, "It's urgent, very urgent. If you don't go and report it, I will shout outside." "Impudent!" The commander of the guards shouted, "This is the heart-cultivating pavilion. How dare you make trouble? The elders are having an important meeting. Don't you understand?" This person was anxious. The people around him were also anxious. In the next moment, one of them suddenly gritted his teeth and slapped himself until he vomited blood. He shouted, "Go and report it. Someone has died. You." The guard commander's expression changed. This was really ruthless. He was already seriously injured. "Do you really want me to die here?" The expert who had attacked him said angrily, "If I die here, can you at least bear the consequences?" After saying this, he slapped himself again. Poochie. Blood splattered everywhere. In the surroundings, some of the researchers from the single divine language department saw this scene, and their hearts were filled with sorrow. Bastard! Not starting the meeting earlier, not starting the meeting later. But at this moment, there was definitely a conspiracy. Even the Shanghai realm experts weren't here. Without the pavilion elder, there was no way for them to stop it. The key point was that not only one pavilion elder wasn't here, but all of them were. If not, when the other pavilion elders saw how chaotic the situation was, they would have stepped out to stop it. But in the end, none of them were here. They were all in a meeting, and it was a strategy meeting. This meant that they couldn't report or disturb them. Otherwise, there was the possibility of stealing secrets and they would be punished severely. Seeing that this researcher was really going to be ruthless towards him, the commander of the guard's expression changed. Very quickly, he said, "That's enough. You guys can continue to cause trouble. I will report everything to the principal. You guys can take responsibility for your own self-harm." After saying that, he turned around and went upstairs. He had to report this matter. Otherwise, if the other party really died here and Ling Yun died at the door of the Heart Cultivation Pavilion, it would be a huge trouble. In the huge conference hall. At this moment, it was still quiet. In order to let everyone have a meeting in peace, Elder Qi had activated the soundproof shield so that everyone could have a meeting in peace. At this moment, Zhou Mingren was frowning. He looked outside a few times. The window was still open, but he didn't see anything. There wasn't much sound. He just saw a lot of people walking back and forth. Did they go to watch the show? He knew that Su Yu was competing. Were they going to watch the show? There were so many people. Why were they feeling uneasy? Wan Tiansheng had long noticed the people coming and going. At this moment, he closed his eyes and dozed off. In fact, waves were stirring in his heart. What? What are you guys doing? He opened his eyes and glanced at Elder Qi from the corner of his eye. This was strange. This old fellow wasn't from the Divine Literature Department. What medicine did he take today to trick Zhou Mingren so much? The Xia family is involved. He had a vague judgment in his heart. This person seemed to have a good relationship with Fatty Xia. Could it be that Fatty Xia was involved? You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 612, S Rules Were a Good Thing 3. Chapter 612, Chapter 162's Rules Were a Good Thing Troublesome. This damned fatty wasn't thinking of taking advantage of him, was he? No matter what happened to the divine runes, even if he really wanted to vomit blood, he couldn't let Fatty Xia take advantage of him. Wan Tiansheng knocked on the table and glanced at Zhou Mingren. At this moment, Zhou Mingren's brows were tightly furrowed. Wan Tiansheng's heart was a little strange. Was there any hope for the sun and moon? Crisis detection. Zhou Mingren had some. If he really wanted to sense it clearly, it would have to be the sun and moon. He didn't open his mouth, but his heart was heaving slightly. Another divine language. Those guys hadn't come out yet, but Suyu had already stirred up some waves. Suyu. Lingyun realm. In his memory, there were some unclear images. It was Lingyun realm, right? How many years would that be? 30 years? Or 20 years? There was no clear concept of time. All he knew was that the kid was very powerful to be able to become Lingyun. The human divine language was the main divine language, and he was fighting against the mountains and seas. Wan Tianxing rubbed his forehead. Suyu's image was only a fleeting glimpse. It wasn't too much, but Lingyun was fighting against the mountains and seas. It was too stunning, so he still remembered Suyu. A genius with multiple divine runes was indeed shocking. However, he wasn't sure how many years had passed. Moreover, Lingyun's mountains and seas weren't the main body he saw. What he saw was the sun and the moon. It was eternal. While he was still thinking, Elder Qi suddenly said, "Head Prefect, don't be distracted." Wan Tianxing woke up. Elder Qi said unhappily, "Head Prefect, you don't agree with my opinion?" Wan Tianxing was speechless. He said indifferently, "No, I'm thinking. You mean that the divine runes of the god and demon race are more powerful than ours? You mean that perhaps these divine runes were cursed from the beginning?" "Yes." Elder Qi said seriously, "I suspect that civilized masters can't advance to eternity. In fact, it's not something that happened in the past few decades, but something that happened long ago. The gods and demons had long ago invaded us through their culture and cursed us. I even suspect that it's not their divine language that's problematic, but the divine language of the human race." Elder Qi said seriously, "I think that they might have cursed the divine language of the human race and not their own divine language. It's just that we cultivate their divine language, so we're naturally weaker than them and are unable to advance to eternity." Wan Tianxing was deep in thought, but he didn't think too much about it before. At this moment, he couldn't help but say, "It's not impossible for you to think about it. The human divine language, the human race is also a strong race. There's no reason that the human divine language is inferior to the divine language of some weaker races. Maybe you're right. But there's no way to be sure about this now. We still have to communicate with the Quest realm to verify it." Elder Qi nodded. "That's why I've gathered everyone here to talk about this. Including the part about letting some people cultivate the human divine language. I don't think we should be too anxious. We need to confirm if there's a problem with the human divine language." As he was speaking, someone knocked on the door. It wasn't an ordinary knock. This was an emergency. Elder Qi frowned. "What's the matter? You're messing around." He looked out the window. Everything was fine. Where did this emergency come from? Wan Tianxing looked at him and said, "It's an emergency. Let's summon them in and ask them." The next moment, the door opened. The commander of the guards hurriedly said, reporting to the head prefect and elders, "There are a few researchers downstairs who have broken into the building. They are not allowed to enter. They are threatening to harm themselves. There are already people who are seriously injured." Everyone's willpower began to probe. Zhou Mingren and the others' expressions changed, and they quickly disappeared on the spot. Not far away, Wu Yuehua snorted coldly, sneered, and said indifferently, "They are becoming more and more unruly." After saying that, she also followed them out. The other pavilion elders all revealed strange expressions. Some of them used their willpower to probe the other areas of the academy, but when they reached the arena area, there were people there who used their willpower to block. This pavilion elder's expression changed slightly. He withdrew his willpower and didn't make a sound. But in his heart, he had already made a judgment. Something might have happened in the arena. Could it be that another genius from the Divine Literature Department had been crippled by Suyu? This Suyu was so savage. A freshman had crippled several geniuses from the Divine Literature Department. He was really, quite strong. The pavilion elders were calm and composed, and didn't pay too much attention to it. It was obviously not a big deal. Otherwise, the academy would have long since given a warning. The guards weren't just for show. If it was really a big deal, they would have long given a warning. How could they use the people of the single divine language department to report it? Obviously, it was only related to them. The pavilion elders leisurely strolled downstairs. They wanted to watch a show. Other than the pavilion elders of the single divine language department who were nervous, the others really didn't care. It was normal for students to get injured while sparring. At the very most, they would be like Huang Qifeng. The referee was still around, so there wouldn't be any deaths. In the arena area, Jia Mingzhen and the others were also present at this moment. At this moment, Jia Mingzhen clicked his tongue and said in amazement, "This kid is amazing. 1 step at a time, 3 steps at a time. Let's see, if those guys who reported the news left too late, they would also be caught. Then, there wouldn't even be a messenger." There really wasn't even a messenger. The others were all caught. The guards were helpless now. There were too many people, so they could only act as guards to prevent any accidents from happening. As for those guys who had chased away the students, they were all taken away. They would probably be locked up until the matter was over. There were still some single divine when experts present, but they were helpless at this moment. They couldn't interfere, and they couldn't chase the students away. Once they were chased away, Su Yu, that fellow, was very good at using the rules. If he said that he was meddling in the students' fights, then he would be caught again.